Road, there's trees pretty much on both sides, pretty grown up around the roadway that leads back to a low water crossing. Is an area where the roadway will actually go through a creek.
Very desolate, especially at that time of the year.
As he's going along the road, he sees this car pulled over on the side of the road.
I come up on the creek, and you gotta turn as you go down into it and go across it because the road kind of curves. My headlights came over on their body in front of the car, and I had to stop out in the middle of the creek, like right about here.
He finds a dead woman.
When I seen her, I swear my heart stopped. I just kind of got a little frantic, I think. I could tell she wasn't moving.
911, what's the address of your emergency?
I am at the end of Route M of 151, and there's a woman laid on the ground in front of a car.
I stayed in my truck, and I called 911.
I don't know what the hell's going on here.
All right, sir, would you mind if you would get out of your vehicle and check on her?
Yes, sir, I will.
It was just kind of a freaky situation. The whole time I'm standing there, I'm waiting on somebody to come out of the darkness. I had no flashlight that had batteries that was charged. I had my truck running behind me, so I couldn't hear nothing. I'm just, scared, like when's somebody gonna come out of the woods?
You need to get the ambulance out here. But there's a lady laying in front of the car. I don't know if she's alive yet or what.
They wanted me to just make sure if she was alive or not.
You can check on her and give me an update. That'd be greatly appreciated.
Finally, they got me out of the truck, and I grabbed my handgun and walked through the water, and I just kept on the phone with them.
Ma'am. Ma'am. Oh my God. I don't think she's alive, no.
I seen if she was cold to the touch or she had a pulse, and she did not. And I looked in her eyes, and I could tell that she was gone.
Her eyes are open. I swear to God, she's dead.
This case takes place in the American heartland. It's the northeastern section of the state of Missouri, Monroe County, and neighboring Randolph County. Bucolic agricultural community.
Not a whole lot of industry. The prison is one of the biggest employers. That is the Amish. There are just kind of two big areas of Amish that are in northeast Missouri.
Just farm ground. I mean, there's dairy cows, there's beef cows, there's mainly, for the most part, just farming.
There's probably more animals than there are people in that county.
It's most well known for being the birthplace of Mark Twain, and he wrote a lot of his stories about this idyllic kind of landscape here in Monroe County.
Back at the crime scene, investigators are trying to identify this victim.
Where my patrol car is in the general vicinity of where we found the victim's car when we arrived on scene. Outside of the driver's door, there were what appeared to be blood on the ground, and then there were some drag marks on the gravel, and ultimately we found a deceased female in front of the vehicle.
She was wearing pajama pants or sweatpants, as well as a tank top.
Well, it was very obvious within the first few minutes to me that there was foul play involved.
She was essentially shot execution style. She had been shot once in the back of the head at point-blank range.
Some investigation was done as to ascertain the identity of the victim.
The weight didn't match on the DOR. That was the only thing I thought.
We initially run the vehicle registration, things of that nature.
Looks like it is Molly Watson, so.
Is it Molly Watson? Okay.
We were eventually able to figure out that the victim was Molly Watson.
Police wake up the family in the middle of the night with some pretty bad news.
My wife woke me up, said, "Your dad's on the phone. He doesn't sound good, something happened." I'll never forget my dad. He said, "Timmy," he said, "the highway patrol just left our house." I was like, "What happened?" He said, "They found Molly dead in the road." And I was like, "What?"
Sandy called me at 2 o'clock in the morning and said that The police had just been to their house and told them that Molly had been shot.
I think she kept screaming, "Molly's dead," didn't she?
Yeah. Knowing that Molly was dead was a big shock.
You can see I was preparing to work on my next costume when I decided to do this vlog.
She wanted to be a singer for a long time, and she had a really good singing voice.
I am going to sing the healing incantation from Tangled. Flower, gleam and glow, let your power shine.
She was one of the luckiest people I've ever known. Like whenever we would walk by like a pop machine, she would always like push the buttons, and I don't know how it would happen, but like a pop would come out. That's what's hard, I think, for me, knowing how she passed. And one of the most unluckiest ways possible.
Is it Molly Watson? Okay. You know how old she is now?
Police want to know what brought Molly to this dark, desolate place, and even more puzzling, who'd have a reason to kill her?
And I'll see you guys later. Bye!
Molly Watson's body was found
wearing her engagement ring
on her left ring finger
when she was shot to death.
Her marriage certificate was located in her car.
That had her name in there as well as her fiance's name.
They were planning a wedding
of her dreams.
That wedding was less than 48 hours away.
The murder of Molly Watson sends a shudder through her community in rural Missouri. Everyone is asking why. The life she led didn't seem to be one that would end in violence.
Molly had been married in her early 20s, but just after a few years, that marriage ended in divorce. But during the breakup, she was pregnant and had a son.
He ended up having cerebral palsy, so he was unable to walk, but smart as could be.
She loved Declan. She would take him to the zoo, you know, she would take him about anywhere with her. That was just her world right there. And then she met Amber, who she started a relationship with.
This is just a photo album that we had put together, Molly and I had with Declan. My name is Amber Brady. Molly Watson and I were in a relationship for about 5 years. That's Molly that Declan's laying on, and I'm right behind Molly, and we're all just kind of napping on the couch. We actually met in kindergarten. We went to kindergarten together. We did not like each other whatsoever. I thought she was a weird little person, and she thought I was obnoxious. So.
Amber and Molly lost touch for a long time, but years later, the kindergarten adversaries crossed paths again.
We actually ran into each other downtown Moberly one day, and she's like, "Is that you?" I'm like, "Yeah." And so it just kind of kicked off from there. We actually grew a friendship there, and then things just got closer.
They find they like the grown-up version of each other much more.
She was just bouncy and bubbly all the time. I mean, anything would make her smile, the simplest things.
And they fall in love.
She was actually my first girlfriend. I was her. She was married at the time. I was too. But things weren't going well for either one of us.
Molly and Amber move in together, and when Molly's son is born, they're a little family.
We could talk. We could communicate. We like doing a lot of the same things. It just seemed to click.
But then Molly gets a new job.
She decided to go and apply at the prison, and that's where she was going to work. Moberly Area Correctional Center. She was a corrections officer 1. She was down in the wings. She had to do counts, search the cell, break up fights.
Molly meets somebody new at the prison. Not an inmate, but a lieutenant named James Addy.
I thought we were doing fine, but I guess they grew close.
Amber says she caught Molly and James at a motel.
And I went up there and knocked on the door. She answered. James Addy was getting dressed and leaving. That wasn't good.
Amber says there was another encounter at a gas station.
He gets out of the car, and he started to say something. I didn't give him the option. I told him, I said, "You need to shut up." I said, "You broke up our family."
At this point, she moved back into my mom and dad's house.
Amber says she's heartbroken, but Molly apparently is head over heels for James Addy.
I didn't have any friendship or anything to do with Molly. She had blocked me on everything, which that was fine. I mean, it wasn't a good breakup.
Molly was absolutely 100% in love with him. She would have walked into the
It seemed like a pretty nice relationship. Smiling photos of them on trips together, a happy couple.
There was definitely an age gap there. At first, you know, it was weird for us, but, you know, everybody kind of got past it.
Growing up, Jim, far back as I can remember, he was always a good brother. He was a role model and example. He was in the Marine Corps, and then from the Marine Corps, he got out after Desert Storm and just created a life.
This guy is a proud veteran of the United States Marines. He was even born on the 4th of July. He's got 2 kids. He's worked as a mechanic. He's worked in a factory and had gotten a job at the local prison where he was liked so much he reached the level of lieutenant.
James Addy does have some history. He's been married 4 times. He has so many ex-wives that apparently some of his own family members say they can't keep track of everyone's names.
I loved Melanie. She was always nice, always kind, funny. It was just Melanie, the type of women that Jim liked were very, very nice, very kind.
But now it's James and Molly.
And they really did seem to love each other. I mean, according to Jim, it was a relationship unlike anything he'd had before. Something that he said, the mutual respect between the two, that they could share anything with each other. It's something any of us would love to have in a relationship with another person.
After 7 years of having this relationship with James, well, she surprises her family. She suddenly announces, I'm engaged.
And it was just kind of all of a sudden, boom, let's get married now.
She was all about him. Her family even described it. This is what she's always been looking for. She was happier than she's ever been. She was ready for the wedding.
Oh, constant. We always heard about the wedding. Very excited about the wedding. You know, the colors, the theme, the decorations.
There's a lot of burgundy and gold. Kind of reminded me of like a Renaissance kind of themed wedding. From Molly's perspective, it was gonna be a beautiful wedding and the best day ever.
You were booked for her makeup and hair 3 years ago.
Yes.
What did you know about Molly and the wedding and her fiance?
I remember meeting her. She was so excited. She wanted a Disney themed, and we had been working on a wedding that was Beauty and the Beast. And so we were like, we're very familiar with like doing this very like, you know, Disney themed wedding.
This dress, as you will see with it on me, I show it with me wearing 1 ball gown crinoline.
She was very excited. Well, she had how many dresses?
2.
2 dresses, yeah.
2 dresses. She could not make up her mind.
Mm-hmm.
That's what Molly wanted to do, have a perfect wedding.
She was so excited.
Very excited because it had taken a while to get to that point, I guess, of them being married.
What did you make of Molly as a bride-to-be?
She was really sweet. I loved working with her.
A very wonderful wedding had been planned at the Stony Creek Inn. Molly had invited her family here to come to this event.
I got mine, sent my RSVP back.
The couple times that I met her, she always had a smile on her face. She was bubbly, she was happy, she enjoyed talking about her wedding. James was kind of the opposite of Molly. He was very quiet, didn't show much enthusiasm. I just thought he was just a groom along for the ride.
Is James looking to back out of the wedding? You see, in their text messages, Molly appears to be worried about this.
Are you still sure you want to marry me with my anxiety?
Before her life was cut short on that backcountry road, Molly was over the moon about her upcoming wedding to James Addy. But her family wasn't so sure.
I asked her, you know, what does your family think about him? And she was really kind of hesitant, and she said, you know, my family doesn't really like him. They've only met him a few times.
He pulled in one day and Sandy was in the kitchen and she says, come here, come here. So we're standing in the kitchen looking out the window and I went, him? She likes him? And she said, yeah.
Even though Molly and James have been together for 7 years, they don't really know this guy. Molly's brother even says he doesn't know James's last name.
He could never look you in the eye. He could never talk to you directly. Everything was very evasive with him. He put off bad vibes to everybody.
He was like a ghost that would come in and go out. But Molly was protective. It was her business.
Now Molly is finally getting married again, but some of her closest relatives send their regrets. They're not coming.
That was my last message to Molly. I'm not gonna be able to go. My kids have a softball and baseball tournament that weekend. I said, but you know how I feel about weddings and funerals. I kind of have a thing anyway that I just kind of avoid weddings and funerals.
Molly finally had convinced me. She sent me a text message the night before she was murdered. It's actually the last one I got from her. It said, you have to be there. It won't be the same without you. And that kind of got to me. So I told her, I was like, okay, I'll do it for you.
Never would have thought that I would have been going to her funeral that next week instead of a wedding. Never would have thought it.
Late 2017, early 2018, James Addy and Molly Watson began planning a wedding, going to the recorder's office, getting a marriage license.
This one here is on the date of April 25th, 2018. James Aaron Addy, 51, to Molly Nicole Watson, 35. I'm Mark Price. I'm the Randolph County Recorder of Deeds in the county of Randolph in the state of Missouri.
As the county recorder, he was responsible for recording deeds, as well as recording marriage licenses. And he performed that ritual for James Addy and Molly Watson on April 25th, 2 days before her murder.
Security camera video actually shows Molly walking across the parking lot and coming into the building.
The cameras I got in the back of my office for security filmed all that.
Even on security cameras, Molly's bubbly personality is pretty obvious. She's smiling and laughing there, chatting with the guard. And you notice her phone? Apparently she always kept that close.
Molly Watson come in the door just shortly before 4 o'clock, and she said, I'm here to get a marriage license. And she was quite pleasant to talk to. We had a good time.
And you can see James there in his uniform, showing up late, hurrying inside.
And then Mr. Addy walked in the door, and he was not smiling. He was acting like this was not the place he wanted to be in. She reached right over to him and was touching his arm and stuff, and she would pat him on the back, and she would lean into him a little bit. He seemed perturbed with some of the things that I was asking him, like if he'd been married before and how it ended. He was just like, why do you need to know that?
Maybe Addy just didn't like admitting he'd already been married 4 times before. Or maybe he just didn't like the questions about his marriage to Melanie Addy, which he tells the recorder had ended in divorce 6 months earlier.
The couple leaves the recorder's office holding hands.
That's just tough. It really is. Because she was a sweet girl. A lot of things happened after that. I don't want to cry.
Judging by their text messages, it appears Molly Watson, the soon-to-be 5th wife of James Addy, is beginning to question just how committed this guy really is.
Are you still sure you want to marry me with my anxiety?
Just days before the wedding, Molly is expressing real concern that James is getting cold feet.
Yes, dear. Why would you ask something like that?
Because when you were talking earlier, you sounded like you were starting to doubt your decision.
Not even close, dear.
James is trying his best to reassure Molly that he is all in.
Are you changing your mind?
Not at all.
Then what?
It worries me that you were changing yours.
I wasn't.
Good.
If you read the cards that James sent, this sounds like a man in love telling Molly, "You are truly the love of my life now and forever. You are my everything. I love you. I adore you." This does not sound like a guy who's nervous about getting married.
As Molly is building and getting ready for the wedding and the excitement is starting to take over, there's some horrible news.
James tells Molly his ex-wife, Melanie, has just died.
His ex-wife / mother of his kids was in a car accident over the holidays. And she had just passed away from the injuries.
Molly was told by Jim that she was on life support for a bit, and eventually we had to pull the plug on her. We had to let her go.
This is such tragic news. And of course, it could not have happened at a worse time, just as Molly is putting the final touches on her day, her wedding day. Boom, this happens, everything is thrown into chaos.
Bride-to-be Molly Watson has her wedding to James Addy all arranged. She booked the location, she bought the centerpieces, she even hired hair and makeup. But you know what they say about best laid plans?
The big day is right around the corner, but there are so many hitches in the wedding plans.
The plan was that she had a stepdaughter who she was planning to do hair and makeup on. Then she said that, but I'll let you know when we get closer to the time because she's not sure if she really wants to be in the wedding.
Hi, Crystal. This is Molly Watson. The work's just been kind of crazy trying to get ready for the wedding.
There's some last-minute changes. James and Molly cut their guest list in half, and Molly leaves a voicemail saying James's daughter Emma won't be in the wedding party after all.
I did also want to let you know that it is just going to be me getting hair and makeup done. My soon-to-be daughter has decided she and a friend are going to do each other's hair and makeup, and so we're just going to go that route.
We're like, oh, yeah, no big deal. So I didn't really think anything of it.
James had told Molly, who told me, that his ex-wife was involved in December in a really bad car wreck and that she was on life support. And they didn't think she was going to make it.
With every wedding, we do a final walkthrough and detailing meeting. However, when I was reaching out to Molly to try to get that meeting scheduled, she had mentioned that James's ex-wife had passed away from a car accident over the holidays.
And a couple of weeks before Molly's death, she had actually told me that they had went in and pulled the plug on her and she passed away.
Now this is April we're talking, and she had just passed away from the injuries. So he had to go and do funeral stuff with his kids when we were trying to meet.
On the day that Molly Watson was murdered, James Addy had dropped off centerpieces or decorations for the wedding planner and had made a payment on the wedding.
He seemed just like he did in every other meeting that I met him. So this was probably the second or third time I've met him in person. Again, really quiet, didn't say much. He brought in the decor, and me being a bubbly event coordinator trying to get people amped for their big day. I'm being enthusiastic, and I do recall as I was walking him out the door, I asked if he's getting excited, and his one comment was that she was driving him crazy.
Mr. Addy made a statement that Molly Watson was driving him crazy.
Deputies say they found a woman's body in the area of Highway 151 and Route M Friday night.
I was at home watching TV, and their pictures come up on the screen and that she was dead.
It has been identified as 35-year-old Molly Watson from Huntsville.
And I went, oh my gosh, and I hollered at my wife. I said, Carla, I think I was the one that sold them the marriage license just earlier this week.
The investigation is sort of launched throughout that night with the Missouri Highway Patrol going out there, looking at this.
Now police get their first big break in this investigation. And that's thanks to the guy in the pickup truck, Glenn McSparron.
It was pitch black that night. It was very dark.
Glenn McSparron was taking a shortcut that night to and from his mother's home and discovered Molly's body on the way back from his mother's.
However, we also found out that that was not the first time he had been through the water crossing that night.
About 30 minutes before he discovers the body of Molly Watson, he's driving down this same desolate dirt road in Monroe County, Missouri.
Earlier in the night, he was taking his daughter over to his mother's home and actually encountered that scene from the opposite direction.
And he saw a car come up and kind of cut him off, put their headlights right into his view.
I started to see that there was lights down here. And once I got a little bit closer, I could see that there was a car, and I thought that they wanted past me, so I pulled over to the side of the road, and I could see another car parked over on the right, facing away from me.
At first I thought somebody was stuck because like the car with the lights on facing us, it looked almost like it was spinning and like the front end was kind of sliding back and forth.
He said he saw a short white guy driving the car.
An older white male in a big grandma car.
Glenn McSparron described the car with the older white man as an old grandma car.
Then all of a sudden he pulled up down closer to us. I rolled my window down just a little bit and I stuck my head over next to it, and right about then the guy got out and come to the end of his door. And I couldn't hardly see him because of all the glare. And I just kind of turned my head towards the window and I said, hey, is somebody stuck down there? And how did he say that? He said, I don't know where they're at. It's going to be a while.
Glenn McSparron had a brief verbal exchange with this older white male, and the other individual indicated that Glenn needed to go around a different way.
So I just backed my truck up a little bit and went back to the west. The more I thought about it, I was like, something's not right. And I talked to my mom and my brother for a minute, and I told them, I said, I'm going to go back through there.
And that's when he finds Molly Watson at the scene dead. Calls the police.
In the hours after finding Molly, police searching in the dark find her purse and her other belongings. But they soon realize that something very important is missing from this crime scene. Something that really should be there.
We all know that technology plays a big part of solving murder cases now. But at this point, police in this case don't have Molly's cell phone.
Molly Watson's cell phone was not found at the scene of her murder.
Investigators will set out to find Molly's phone. Before the sun comes up, another important discovery comes to light.
This discovery is pretty amazing. I mean, the deputy was not out searching for evidence. He was driving back to the crime scene in the dark. He's got the good sense to pick it up, and boy, is it going to turn out to be important.
The crime scene is in the middle of nowhere in Monroe County, Missouri.
It's remote. I mean, it's really grown up. You're driving in between trees and horseweeds down to the creek.
So this is a low water crossing. You can kind of see the roadway on the other side.
It is an unpaved gravel road.
It's a low water crossing, so it's muddy at points.
At this muddy crime scene, right where that witness says he saw a man driving what he called a grandma car, investigators find remarkably well-preserved tire tracks.
There were tire impressions which were along the edge of the road.
There was an embankment, and there appeared to be markings that looked like two O's.
What appeared to be lettering from the sidewall of the tire. There were what appeared to be double O's. I think everybody looking thought that was probably a Goodyear tire.
They also located a tire print just feet from Molly's body. The Missouri State Highway Patrol created a cast of a tire print in the mud near Molly's body. They did that with the hopes that in the future they'd be able to compare it to other tires.
And they take some of this evidence from the tire track in the mud in order to analyze this tire track. Could we match what we found here to any particular tire?
Authorities are working hard to try to figure out who in the world would have a reason to want to end the life of this friendly, happy young woman.
When they searched Molly Watson's belongings in her car, they did locate cash still in her purse.
She was wearing what appeared to be a diamond solitaire engagement ring on her left hand,
indicating that the motive might not have been robbery.
So if it's not robbery, what is the motive? Could Molly herself have left a clue on Facebook?
In a Facebook post that happened about a year before her death, Molly complains about an ex, but she doesn't say who it is. She says they were trying to access her bank accounts.
Let me read the post to you. I suspect it was the unstable individual who attempted to intimidate me with their service weapon by pointing it at me and threatening me when I left the relationship.
I have no idea who had threatened her. I had never, ever, ever threatened her.
Amber denies meddling with any of Molly's bank accounts. And keep in mind, she wasn't Molly's only ex. James and Molly had an on-again, off-again relationship. There were other people in the picture as well.
This is definitely not normal. This is not something we get in Monroe County very often. Murders, we don't get very often.
Brandon Osborne was a sheriff's deputy with the Monroe County Sheriff's Office at the time that Molly Watson's body was found.
He needed to return to the sheriff's office quickly.
On his way back to the crime scene, Brandon Osborne located a t-shirt in the middle of Route M.
I came upon this shirt laying in the road, went around the shirt and past it, and then I stopped and I'm thinking, we're kind of close to the crime scene here. I probably better pick that up just in case.
This discovery is pretty amazing. I mean, the deputy was not out searching for evidence. He was driving back to the crime scene in the dark. He spots the t-shirt. He's got the good sense to pick it up, and boy, is it going to turn out to be important.
That t-shirt, we later learned, had gunshot residue on it, had Molly Watson's blood.
We can infer that that was at the scene at some point Molly Watson's murder, given the presence of that gunshot residue and her blood on the t-shirt.
It turned out to be a very important piece of evidence.
Meantime, there's an autopsy.
It revealed that Molly Watson died of a single gunshot wound to the back of the head, that the trigger was pulled when the gun was flush against Molly's head, and that it was a small caliber weapon that was used to kill her.
The medical examiner is able to extract a bullet from the body of Molly. The problem is this bullet is crushed beyond recognition. That's not what police want to hear when they're building a case against a suspect.
Prosecutors were not able to identify a murder weapon because the bullet that they found was too damaged to be able to match it up with any particular firearm.
All we can say about the projectile is that it would be consistent with a small caliber ammunition.
A .22 would be considered a small caliber firearm, along with several other calibers.
Investigators are searching, and on a road leading away from the scene, County Road M, they find evidence.
Along Route M, there were a couple of items of evidence that were located, including an ammunition box.
It was an empty .22 caliber ammunition box.
The investigators are gathering that evidence to examine later, but right now in the middle of the night, there's something they've got to do right away. They've got to break the bad news to Molly's fiance James Addy.
At that point, wanted to make a notification to him that there'd been an incident involving Molly.
The Highway Patrol trooper does one of the more unfortunate parts of a law enforcement officer's job, to go notify somebody that their loved one is dead.
So they went to his house that evening.
And they're expecting that he's going to be devastated, that they found the body of his fiancée.
What they didn't realize is that the shocking news that was going to be delivered to them would change this investigation immediately.
A bright light is about to illuminate the secret life of James Addy. What has he been hiding?
This is an unbelievable story. This is a story about a double life.
Those lives were set on a collision course when he and Molly Watson began planning the wedding.
Molly apparently is head over heels for James Addy.
She was all about him. This is what she's always been looking for.
He had told Molly that his wife died in a terrible accident.
2 days before this long-awaited marriage,
Oh my God.
Molly's found murdered.
And it just built and built and built.
And somebody is living with a lot of secrets.
A man driving along a back road in rural Missouri makes a stunning discovery. The body of a woman. So he calls the police.
Is it Molly Watson? Okay.
The investigators working this crime scene discover that the victim, Molly Watson, has a fiancé. His name is James Addy.
He was supposed to marry Molly in like 2 days.
The Highway Patrol trooper does a sort of unfortunate part of a law enforcement officer's job, to go notify somebody that their loved one is dead.
So Sheriff Colston, along with a couple of members of the Missouri State Highway Patrol, went from the crime scene to James Addy's home.
Molly Watson was basically murdered at the midway point between James Addy's home and her home.
So they go to his house outside of Mexico, Missouri, which is, let's say, 25 miles away.
It's very late, the point that we're getting to his house, right around 2 in the morning. Went to knock on the door.
And that door was answered by James Addy. He's wearing a bathrobe.
As investigators go to deliver what they believe is going to be shocking news to James Addy, they had no idea that the shocking news was going to be delivered to them.
While the trooper is there in the home, he makes a startling discovery. There's another woman in James Addy's house. She asks the trooper, "What are you doing here?" And I imagine the trooper probably felt much of the same thing. What are you doing here?
The answer's not just a complete surprise, it's a shock. It turns out the woman who was there is James Addy's wife, Melanie Addy. She had not only been married to James for more than 20 years, but she's the mom of their 2 children, including a teenage girl named Emma, who is upstairs, asleep in her own bed.
Now this is a stunning moment, since Addy had told Molly his ex-wife was dead.
We definitely were not expecting for there to be a wife present.
She's his wife? The guy's living a complete double life. What is going on here?
It was kind of like he was stuck between a rock and a hard place. He was realizing that I've already been married for years. I have 2 kids with this woman, but I also have this whole other life. He knew that in 2 days, all of that was going to collide.
This is a huge predicament for him. How do you keep both of these lives going?
Molly knew he was married. He had told her, and she told me all this. She's like, he has a wife, he plans on leaving her once their daughter graduates high school.
Why would you ask someone to marry you if you're already married? Right. You know, just continue on the way you were.
turns out Melanie Addy is James Addy's fourth wife, so that would mean Molly would have been his fifth marriage. But it's really unclear how those previous marriages ended.
We tried to find those previous ex-wives, but no one we interviewed for this story knew any details.
The wife, she denies any knowledge of the affair. I don't think that she knew.
I guess Melanie asked who Molly Watson was, and he had to confess, yeah, it's my lover.
James Addy was interviewed apart from the other members of the home.
He admits that he was cheating on Melanie with Molly, and that yes, they had been engaged to be married.
He admits early on that he had done something he should have in terms of an affair. He never said he killed anyone.
Mr. Addy became visibly hot and uncomfortable during that interview. So hot and uncomfortable that he actually walked over to his window, opened it, and put a box fan there to blow the cool air in.
At first, Addy offers up an explanation of what he had been doing that night.
James Addy said he was going to see a friend that night at 7 o'clock.
He says that he was going to pick up an avocado plant. Says that he got back home around 8:30 that night.
But Addy also admits something else to police. He tells them that he had been talking to Molly earlier that night using a phone that he kept hidden from his wife.
There was essentially a secret phone or a private phone that he only used to communicate with Molly Watson.
It was a purple cell phone that he went out and grabbed and gave it to investigators, that this is what I used to communicate, and boy did he communicate.
James Addy admits to talking to Molly Watson every single day and volunteered that the last time he had spoken with Molly Watson was earlier in that evening, and showed the police a screenshot of a 22-minute phone call from her to him.
He did not indicate that she was driving or what she was doing during the period of that phone call.
James Addy texted Molly Watson after she was dead. These texts were like maybe a caring fiance would send.
What did you eat for supper? I love you so much.
And finally, when he has no response, he says something like, "Night, night, sweetheart, I'll talk to you tomorrow."
For police, everything has changed since that very first moment that they walked into the Addy's house. This man has a wife. He was sweating in the interview. He's got phone and text messages that seem ever so suspicious. So for police, there's plenty. What do? They arrest him. They charge him with first-degree murder.
Now, the trick is building a case.
You doing all right, sir? Okay.
Not really.
I got a call from our sister Heather, and she told me Jim's been arrested for murder. And I'm like, no, I didn't believe it. There hasn't been a moment yet that I have thought that Jim killed Molly.
And what did Melanie, James Addy's wife, think? I couldn't believe what she had to say about this incredible double life.
He might have tried to kill you.
All right, here we go. I'm here with Joe Diaz on our way to Monroe County to interview Melanie Addy about this stunning story. When I look back on that drive, there was a lot of anticipation. This was going to be one of the more unusual interviews I'd done. How did you even learn about this story, Joe?
I heard about this trial and was immediately, fascinated by how this man lived a double life.
We were about to interview Melanie Addy, the actual wife of James Addy, the man who was now accused of murder.
Melanie, first of all, I want to thank you for doing this, because I know you've not done this before.
No, I haven't.
You said that you feel kind of emotional.
I do, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah, anything that takes you back there is hard.
It had been 3 years since Melanie learned the truth, but her emotions were still just under the surface as we went back to the beginning of her story.
That's me.
And Jim. Tell me about meeting James Addy.
I was working at a convenience store, and he was a customer. He came in a lot and finally asked me out.
And once you two hit it off, did he pop the question pretty soon?
Very quickly, maybe 6 months.
That's the wedding photo.
Mm-hmm.
You look so young, both of you.
We didn't have a lot of money, and we had Ben on the way very quickly.
When Ben came into the picture, man, I remember going up to their house. It was always fun. So happy.
A few years later, Emma comes along. So your family was growing.
It was exactly what we wanted. We had these 2 great kids. I was a stay-at-home mom. He went to work. It was a very traditional way to do things. I thought it was very good. I love that picture, yeah. All of us together at Christmas time.
As the years went on, Melanie admits there were problems in the marriage. There were arguments about money, James clashed with their teen son, but she says she felt her husband was dedicated to his family and very loyal, and she never suspected that he was having an affair. Did you get any sense of whether he was contented and happy in the marriage?
He seemed the same all the time.
Melanie did admit that the marriage had its ups and downs, but in her mind, they had always been able to work through whatever the issues were. This was her reality. Everything was the same, but the fact is, it wasn't. James Addy was in a completely different place.
He was over it. He was done. He didn't love her anymore.
James Addy, for the past 7 years, had been living 2 lives.
How was he able to separate both of these lives?
He's a very good liar.
At one point, he takes a trip to Florida on his own. What was that trip about?
He told me it was a trip related to his work, where they were doing some training.
He took the extra step and printed out what looked like a business letter, made it look official that that's what he was doing, but he was taking the trip to Florida with Molly.
Another time he takes a trip to Mexico.
Right.
With friends.
I never really knew his work friends. Seems plausible.
As I talked to Melanie, knowing where this was going, it was hard not to be a little incredulous. But no matter what I asked, she was consistent. She said she did not know the truth about what was going on.
He would get off work at 3, and usually he would get home at 5. And I would say, well, why are you always so late? And that would be an argument. He didn't want to tell me anything.
Any suspicions?
Not about an affair, no.
No suspicions about an affair meant no suspicions about what was going to happen on April 27, 2018, the night Molly Watson was killed.
So let's go back then to April 27, 2018. Any strange behavior on his part?
No, not at all. Nothing. He just seemed like he always did. About 7 o'clock, he came in to the living room where I was and said he was going to a friend's house.
Did it strike you as unusual or odd?
I remember being irritated that I wanted him to just be home, and he had a hard time staying home.
Do you remember when he came home?
I was asleep.
Melanie says that Emma stayed up long after she had gone to bed. And whatever time James Addy got home, well, Melanie says that she woke up at 2 in the morning to the sound of his snoring. And she says she did what she normally does, moved to the couch in the living room.
What next?
About 2:30, I think, I saw police car lights out my window. It was very strange to see that. I didn't know what was happening.
She wasn't ready for everything that was about to come. She wasn't prepared that he had this whole other life that was happening without her.
The police tell you
yes,
that your husband has a dead fiancé?
Yes.
And he's engaged to the one. Yeah. And you're learning all of this in one night.
Immediately, yeah.
And you've been married for
23 years.
What did you think?
I can't even tell you. It was just mind-boggling. It made no sense at all. None.
Were you angry? Were you hurt? What were you feeling?
Probably just disbelief in the beginning. It didn't seem right. This was not my life.
Did you think that your husband was capable of murder?
Yes. It just seemed like something he would do to fix a problem. He was a pretty selfish person. He could be controlling and intimidating, and it could be challenging. I could see this being a way out for him.
Melanie Addy begins searching her house. She searches a loft-type area above the garage, which she rarely went into, and found a photo album.
She finds several photos of Jim and Molly together on trips to Cancun, of them together, smiling, a happy couple.
She found the photos of them in Florida on this trip that she had thought was a harmless business trip for him to go on, that he was actually there with his fiance getting ready to get married.
Were you asking yourself, how could I have missed this?
Oh, absolutely. Every day. Every day. How do you not see this? I guess because I wasn't supposed to see it.
So he's under arrest, he's in jail.
Yes.
Do you go visit him?
The following week, we were both in tears. Both in tears.
What is he saying to you?
That he's sorry. He's very sorry for the affair, but he insists that he was not the killer, that he is not responsible for this.
Was there a part of you that felt for him on any level?
Absolutely, because I felt like, oh, I have to take care of him. This is what we do. We take care of each other.
Did you look at him suddenly as a stranger, as somebody you didn't know?
I looked at him as someone I didn't want back.
What would become of James Addy? If there's one piece of smoking gun evidence in this case, prosecutors say it's not a gun, it's a cell phone.
Like they say, deceased person doesn't speak, but it's almost like Molly was speaking from the grave. This is an unbelievable story. This is a story about a man who was living a double life.
Those lives were set on a collision course when he and Molly Watson began planning a wedding.
Just built and built and built to the point where the guy with 2 lives was about to have 2 wives, and he had to make a choice.
And when that wedding was less than 48 hours away,
2 days before this long-awaited marriage,
oh my God,
she's found murdered.
Dead.
A trial has started for a mid-Missouri man accused of killing his fiancée.
James Addy is accused of killing his fiancée, Molly Watson.
James Addy, the former prison guard, has himself been under guard, locked up in county jail for 3 years until his trial begins.
A female appeared out of a side room, caught me completely off guard.
The lead investigator, Bradley Ream, takes the stand.
I asked her who she was. She replied, I am his wife.
He testifies about that jaw-dropping moment at the Addy home when they find out that James Addy is already married and his supposedly dead ex-wife, Melanie, is still very much alive. She's standing right there.
I was like, whoa. I was wondering what was going on. And he told me that I got myself involved in something I shouldn't have.
When you first went to the water crossing the first time, was there another car present?
Yes, there was. We came upon a pair of headlights down by the creek, and then I could tell there was another car facing away from me.
Glenn McSparron testifies about seeing that older white man at the crime scene, but in a blow to the prosecution, he cannot identify James Addy as the man he saw.
I couldn't get a really 100% clear look at him.
I just couldn't get a good enough eyeball on him to tell for certain, hey, yeah, that's the guy. I wish I would have. It would have made everybody's life a lot easier.
But McSparron's description of the car that man was driving, that old grandma car, police say that matches Addy's car, and then they take a good look at the tires.
Prosecutors say one of the tires on Addy's car, a Goodyear tire, is just the kind that could leave a 00 impression, like the one found near Molly Watson's body.
It wasn't just that double O print from the side of the Goodyear tire. Officers have something more. What prosecutors call a perfect tire print in the mud, just a few feet from Molly's body.
A state crime lab expert testifies that he compared the right rear tire on Addie's car to a cast that was made of the track that was found at the scene of the crime next to Molly's body.
And what conclusion did you draw, if any, about the tire and the cast?
My conclusion was that particular tire made that particular impression.
Prosecutors are convinced that this tire track matches Addie's car. The defense is saying, not so fast.
All right, I'd like to talk to you about this comparison that we just had that states there is no widely accepted scientific principle behind an examiner looking at one tire and looking at a cast and saying they look the same to me.
State's Exhibit 67. Could you explain to the jury what they're looking at here?
That is an empty ammo box of .22 caliber.
A prosecution witness testifies bullets found in a .22 caliber rifle found in James Addie's home are consistent with Thunderbolt ammunition, the kind that came in the empty ammo box they found. Even so, that doesn't prove that that's the murder weapon.
Prosecutors call a long parade of Highway Patrol investigators and criminalists, and then they introduce a key item of evidence.
Prosecutors say it's not a gun, it's a cell phone, also found out on the side of the road.
We utilized a cell site simulator, and we were able to locate her phone.
Molly Watson's cell phone was a vital link in the chain of evidence for prosecutors. Like they say, a deceased person doesn't speak, but it's almost like Molly was speaking from the grave.
Information from her cell phone did tell us that she had driven from her home to this location while she was on the phone with James Addie.
Investigators are poring over all these text messages between James and Molly, and what they're hoping to do is reconstruct the events leading up to her killing. And maybe they'll find even a triggering moment that caused it to happen.
And investigators say there's a reference to that story about Addie's wife dying after a car crash.
Prosecutors say Addie texted Molly that his ex-wife's funeral was happening the day before their wedding.
The funeral is tomorrow.
I'm sorry, sweetness. I love you so, so much.
Why would James Addie lie? I mean, why tell Molly his ex-wife Melanie was dead? Some speculate he hoped the story about the car crash would cause Molly to postpone the wedding and the collision of his two lives. But instead, it may have sped up his day of reckoning.
Molly, at a certain point, did try to look into this and question this, according to some of the things brought up in court.
Forensic searches of Molly's phones indicated that the day before she was murdered, she was looking for Melanie Addie's obituary.
What is the general theme of these searches?
Searching for obituary or death notices for Melanie Addie.
Was obviously unable to find an obituary for Melanie Addie.
Prosecutors make sure to point out the significance of these searches the day before the murder. They argue a theory that Molly has figured out she's been fed a pack of lies. James's wife isn't dead. He's not free to marry. This guy's a con man. So perhaps Molly confronted James, and he decides, well, I'm just going to end it with a gun.
Did James Addie have a plan to see Molly that night?
As stated here in the exhibit, the text message says, "I think I'm going to see you tonight." And that was sent from James's purple phone to Molly.
He knew. He knew what was going to happen. He knew how that date was going to end. Earlier in the evening of April 27th, before James Addie departed his home, he had sent text messages from himself to himself.
Have a meeting tonight at 8, normal place. You have to be there.
James Addie seems to be almost firing himself up to do something drastic.
Don't be a again. Let's go, man.
It was as if one part of him was telling the other to, come on, we can do this. Let's go.
Trying to psych himself up for something. Obviously now we know what it is. Don't be a man. Let's go, man. He's talking himself into it. He's getting himself ready.
As the trial is getting underway, what could have or would have been James Addy's closest allies as a criminal defendant, his wife and his daughter, are now actually going to take the stand against him.
Were you aware that you were on a guest list to attend your dad's wedding? I want to talk specifically right now about the evidence of April 27th, 2018. Molly's last night alive.
She was home just hanging out at her house when James Addy, her fiance, called her and said something to her that prompted her to leave the house.
Grabbed her slippers, threw them on, grabbed her coat and threw it on, and told my mom and dad, you know, I'm gonna meet James here in a little bit, I'll be right back. And out the door she went.
Molly was lured to this Monroe County road. A 22-minute phone call and a 22-minute drive to her death. The defendant's on the phone with her when she walks out her door. He's on the phone with her the entire drive.
For the next 30 minutes or so, police say that Addy's phones, both of them, are silent. No calls, no texting.
That is when he killed Molly Watson. Will you please state your name and spell it for the court reporter?
Emma Addy, EMMAADDIE.
The most emotion that we saw out of James Addy was when Emma took the stand. James Addy was in tears.
The evidence at trial showed that Emma Addy had actually met Molly Watson previously.
James's daughter Emma needed a costume.
And Dad said that he knew somebody who did that kind of thing. And that person was Molly, and he took me to go meet her, and she made a costume for me.
James had introduced Molly as a friend from work.
What was James Addy thinking? Introducing this secret girlfriend to his own daughter, and of course, the daughter has no clue what she means to him. I mean, why? Why would he do this?
Did you know about his relationship with Molly?
No.
She articulated to the jury what she saw and heard and remembered from that night.
I was still up doing homework at around 10 p.m. And that's around the time that Dad came home.
Specifically that he got home at 10 o'clock, not 8:30.
On cross-examination, the defense really tries to create some doubt with timing as to when James Addy actually got home. Even though Emma says it was 10 o'clock, maybe he had gotten home earlier. Maybe he was in the garage working on his car. Maybe she didn't know.
You'd agree with me that back in this time frame that your dad would frequently be in the garage, correct?
Yes.
Emma's most damaging testimony may be about that bloody T-shirt. Remember the one that was found in the road near the crime scene?
The t-shirt becomes so important to this case because it's a one-of-a-kind t-shirt. And here's the kicker. It was made by James Addy's daughter, Emma.
Do you recognize that shirt?
Yes.
Right. How do you recognize that shirt?
She was able to identify it because she made it as a part of one of her classes. And so she was able to affirmatively say, that is a t-shirt that I made.
Okay, I know that's my shirt.
She gave it to her father.
I brought them home that day after the contest, and Dad said that he would take one to the garage just to use as rags.
The defense offers the jury an explanation for why that t-shirt was found near the crime scene. He suggests that perhaps James Addy had given it to Molly.
Is it so implausible that one fiance has a shirt that belonged to their fiance?
As far as your marriage with James Addy, can you describe it for the jury?
Testifying next, the woman James Addy allegedly claimed was dead, his now ex-wife, Melanie Addy.
It was good sometimes, it was bad sometimes. I thought we both tried to make it work.
You were called to testify. How hard was that?
It's horrible. It's just horrible. You don't want to be there. I don't want to be in a position where I'm hurting him. I don't want to do that.
So in April of 2018, were you still married to Mr. Addy and living in that same home?
Yes.
Did you have any plans to divorce at that point?
No.
After 23 years of marriage, Melanie Addy had divorced James for real soon after his arrest.
Within a few weeks, you filed for divorce.
Oh, yes. He'd always been very hard on me about you know, how a wife should act and how a wife should be. And then he did this. He had an affair, and that's okay. No, we were done. We were done.
James Addy didn't react to his ex-wife taking the stand, but everybody else did. Anybody watching was riveted.
I'm going to take you back specifically to April 27th of 2018. Do you remember that day?
Yes.
James Addy indicated to law enforcement that he was wearing certain clothing that night.
Tells them boots and a pair of gym shorts. However, later conversations with Melanie Addy reveal that those were not the clothes that he was wearing.
Do you remember what he was wearing when he left?
Blue jeans, a black jacket, and boots.
Blue jeans, boots, and a dark black colored jacket.
That jacket was never recovered during a search of the Addy home.
Prosecutors also asked Melanie about that outrageous story, the one they say James told Molly, that Melanie was dead.
Were you in a horrible car crash in October of 2017 around Christmas or New Year's?
No.
And is it fair to say you did not pass away in April of 2018?
That's correct.
As the murder trial speeds along, a defense strategy catches some courtroom observers by surprise, and the jury delivers a verdict.
All right, then. My understanding the jury has reached a verdict. Do I have a full person? Yes, sir.
When the jury walked in, like 5 of the jury members looked at us. Like they glanced over, and I thought, okay, I don't know if it's a good sign or not.
My name is Richard Stewart Painter.
So back in April of 2018, you were in jail at that time, is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
What's a case without a jailhouse snitch? But this trial had not one, but 2 inmates who took the stand to testify against James Addy.
Bryce Hendren and Richard Painter were 2 inmates in the Monroe County Jail at the time that James Addy was arrested and brought to detention there.
Did something happen while you were in the jail that concerned you?
Yes, it did.
They're all sitting together in a common room, watching television. It's just kind of shooting the breeze. And they asked Jim, well, what are you doing here?
A conversation about bond come up, and it was brought to our attention that his bond was $500,000. And that sparked our attention enough to wonder what he had done. And then the phrase was made, I put someone face down in a ditch.
The guy said he had laid someone face down in a ditch. That was about it.
How the state interprets that was essentially Jim confessing to having done this, to having killed Molly.
Like most defense attorneys in cases where jailhouse snitches are used, this attorney wants to tear it apart on cross-examination.
Isn't it true that you actually aren't sure what you heard, right?
I was right beside him, and I can say 99% sure that that's what I heard him say.
You said that you gave a statement to law enforcement, right?
Yes.
Okay. And in that statement, right, you said, I'm not sure what I heard, right?
If that's what I said, then that's...
My name is Bradley Breen.
Samantha Cohen.
Nathan Schinkel. Carl Christopher Stason.
After calling nearly 20 witnesses over the course of 3 days, the state rests its case.
Thank you, sir. You may step down.
And now it's time for the defense to take its turn. All kinds of options here. They could introduce evidence, they could call witnesses, or they could put James Addy himself on the stand. Instead, they do none of the above.
James Addy does not testify. In fact, as sometimes happens, the defense calls no witnesses at all.
Not putting up a case for the defense is fairly common because the argument is it's the state's burden to prove something beyond a reasonable doubt.
And I am confident that you will return the verdicts of guilty.
Once my client puts a witness on the stand, now we're in competition for who is more likable or who do we believe more. You lose the state's burden and you take on a burden yourself. Your doubts are reasonable. Your doubts are reasonable because Jim did not kill Molly.
James Addy's defense team took the stance of the state is expecting you to connect the dots, and that's not your job as jurors.
Because the evidence will show that the state does not have proof beyond a reasonable doubt.
They attempted to raise enough reasonable doubt about the things that weren't there. There was no murder weapon. What would be the motive of a man in love killing his fiancée?
He was in love with Molly, was the defense, and he was having an affair, but that didn't necessarily mean that he was the killer.
Ladies and gentlemen, the defendant had a choice to make. And the evidence in this case shows us that this is the life he did not choose.
Closing arguments in this case ended up being on what would have been James and Molly's 3-year anniversary.
Molly Watson does not get to celebrate her 3-year wedding anniversary today, but you have the power to give her justice.
The most anticipated time for any jury trial is the reading of the verdict. Here, the jury deliberated about 2.5 hours the fate of James Addy and announced they had reached a unanimous decision.
All right, then. My understanding the jury has reached a verdict. Do I have a foreperson? Yes, sir.
When the jury walked in, like 5 of the jury members looked at us. Like they glanced over, and I thought, okay, I don't know if this is a good sign or not.
Verdict reads as follows. As to count 1, we, the jury, find the defendant, James Addy, guilty of murder in the first degree as submitted in instruction number 6.
The jury found James Addy guilty of first-degree murder in the death of Molly Watson and armed criminal action.
Oh, I was happy. I was so happy to hear that because my sister got justice, my mom and dad got justice.
Did you feel that your husband should have been found guilty of murder?
Absolutely. Yeah,
Is he a killer?
apparently.
You asked me earlier what I was surprised at during the trial.
During the entire course of the trial, you failed to represent anything that I brought forward.
Up until this point, James Addy has fully exercised his right to remain silent throughout the trial. But now he's ready to open up and give the court his version of what he says really happened.
Jim took the opportunity to really lay out how he felt about this case.
There was no way that I could have done this crime.
And he's going to point to someone he says is the true killer.
Thank you. Have a seat.
We are here today on 18-ACHCR 01983, State Police's James Addy. Medical results today for final disposition.
2 months after his conviction, James Addy is formally sentenced.
Mr. Addy, having been convicted by a jury of your peers of the charge of murder in the first degree, I hereby sentence you to life imprisonment without the possibility of parole, that being the sentence mandated by law.
Once sentencing is over, the judge wants to hear from Addy.
Anyone expecting regrets or remorse is in for quite a surprise.
Normally, criminal defendants keep their mouths shut. They say yes when they're supposed to, and they move on their way to get their appeal going.
Addy has plenty to say, beginning by reading a love letter to the woman he's convicted of killing.
Molly is the love of my life.
Addy insists that Molly was the love of his life. He says he misses her terribly and would have done anything to keep her happy. Addy is now asking for a new trial. He's complaining to the judge that his defense counsel was ineffective.
During the entire course of the trial, failed to represent anything that I brought forward.
Jim honestly let his defense attorney have it. He said that he did not think that TJ did a great job.
Can you give me an idea of what kind of stuff you wanted him to bring forward?
Cell phone records, Facebook posts that were in the story that showed motive that somebody else would.
Molly had an ex who, according to him, had stalked her. Very much so had a motive to do harm to Molly as her wedding was approaching.
We reviewed all of the evidence collected during this investigation and presented the relevant admissible evidence at trial, and there was no evidence of any other person with a direct connection to Molly Watson's death.
And that evidence pointed to one person, James Addy, who had the motive, means, and opportunity to take Molly Watson's life.
It was the sins of the heart, I would say. He should have been a man enough to just say, I did that, and I'm sorry. It's just terrible that damn it. I just wish he wouldn't have done that.
I would like to see him and ask him, what were you thinking? Why did you do this to us? Why did you do this to you?
You don't see yourself as a victim?
Not at all. Molly's the victim. She's not here. She lost her life.
It's so funny because here just a couple of days ago at work, I'm a mechanic and we have our bay doors open, and out of the blue, this balloon came up right up to me and it says, "We love you, we miss you," and that was my mom, dad, and Molly telling me, "Hey, we're watching you." So it definitely felt good.
You just think of the lyrics of that song that Molly loved so much from the movie Tangled.
Bring back what once was mine, what once was mine.
My name is Jesse James. For 17 years, we have lived with the pain of losing our daughter, Holly. It's something that cannot be explained in words. Recently, I decided to write to the person responsible for taking Holly from us. I'm not sure why, and I'm not sure what I'm reaching for, but it just feels like I need to express my thoughts. Many people loved Holly, and you took her from all of us. I still have episodes of grief that I'm unable to control. Why did he choose Holly? I've decided to reach out and try to discover that.
So right now, I'm on my way to Fort Bragg, North Carolina. It's one of the largest military bases in the world. Some say that this base right here is America's first line of defense. I'm investigating a mysterious disappearance of an Army nurse. Her name is Second Lieutenant Holly Lynn James. When Holly fails to show up for her shift at Womack Army Medical Center, causes concern because it's something totally out of character for any soldier.
I was driving back to Fort Bragg from Iowa, and I received a text from a friend at work asking me when the last time I heard from Holly was. It was unusual. Holly was very dependable, and it's just, you know, being an Army officer, it was kind of unheard of to not show up for work.
Her co-workers went to her apartment, and when they got there, they found that she wasn't there and it had been set on fire.
So they called the police.
Pretty much as soon as Holly went missing, I heard about it. Our homicide team heard about it. It was very concerning. She had just sort of disappeared into thin air.
This is the face of the missing Fort Bragg soldier. Has not been seen since Wednesday.
Holly was driven by ambition, an unshakable work ethic, and felt a powerful call to serve her country.
A lot of us are military in our family, and she wanted to go out and do something great.
Holly's younger brother, Bo, a Marine himself, says that Holly had found her calling. As a nurse, were you pretty proud of her?
Absolutely, yeah. They're absolutely lifesavers.
She wanted to go to Iraq. I said, why would you want to go to Iraq, to the war zone? And she said, Dad, I just think I can help soldiers. If I'm out there as a first responder in a war zone, I can do more good and help more soldiers.
Although Holly never served in combat and was ultimately stationed in the U.S., she was going places, and by age 23 had become a second lieutenant in the United States Army.
Even though I was a sergeant major, she was technically a higher rank than me starting out, you know, and I was pretty proud of that. They assigned her to the mother-baby ward at Womack. She just always wanted to be in the thick of things.
She was a floor nurse. She loved helping people all the time. And she really loved children.
Actually, at the time, Holly was raising a couple of children on her own, born from a relationship with her ex-boyfriend from her hometown of Dubuque, Iowa. Then in 2007, she met this 22-year-old Marine, Corporal John Wymunk, a combat engineer who was stationed along with her brother Bo at Marine Corps Base Camp Lejeune. Colonel Kirk Cordova was John Wymunk's commanding officer.
He's a non-commissioned officer working towards being a sergeant and probably one of the best ranks in the Marine Corps. So he was very proficient, I can tell you that.
We deployed together. A lot of times we were looking for explosives or blowing things up. He was very good at our robots that we used for looking for explosives or setting them.
I was embedded in the war zone with the Marines in the invasion of Iraq in 2003. The level of danger was similar to what they experienced.
Marines continue to bring their heavy armor north.
And you realize just how intense their jobs really are. Why did you decide you wanted to introduce him to your sister, Holly?
Everything he said just seemed so funny. And I thought Holly deserved some humor in her life too.
She outranked him. She was an officer and he was an enlisted man, lower enlisted man.
The couple eventually married and shared an apartment together in Fayetteville, just outside the gates of Fort Bragg. Wymunk lived 2 hours away at Camp Lejeune, but would visit on weekends.
Holly and John seemed happy, seemed like a good match. Being a dual military couple, it's just that extra layer of complication. You're just apart quite a bit.
During Wymunk's deployment, Holly bridged the distance with heartfelt video messages.
I bought this camcorder just so I could talk to you. I just wanted to tell you hi, and I love you, and I miss you. I'm very proud of you.
There was a number of videos that she had made for him, you know, and they were sweet.
I'm pretty excited. You'll be here in too long.
She would talk about, you know, how much she loved him, how much she was looking forward to him coming back.
I didn't talk to you, so I just wanted to send you a quick hi and let you know that everything's okay.
Just being a sweet gal.
Together they were rising in the military ranks, newly married, full of hope, but everything would change on that terrible night Holly went missing.
There is still no official word on the whereabouts and the fate of Army Lieutenant Holly Wymunk.
Investigators speak with Wymunk, who says that he was hours away at Camp Lejeune and knew nothing about Holly's whereabouts.
My wife got the call at home, and they said Holly was missing.
Police and federal investigators are on the case. Crime scene tape surrounds the apartment complex.
I began to see reports on the internet. The first report I saw was the police there, the military there, and they were towing her car away from the apartment complex.
There was a lot of interest locally and nationally about what had happened to Holly.
I had reporters on my doorstep, and they were asking if I knew anything about Holly, what could I tell them? I think that's when I realized it was bigger than what I was imagining.
At this point, we didn't know if this was a random act of violence that occurred, or if this is someone that had kidnapped Holly or killed Holly.
It's currently under investigation, and we're working with Fort Bragg trying to locate this person.
People are scared, people are worried, and they've got to go fast to try to find her.
It was all happening so rapidly, so quick.
You decided to fly out to see exactly what's happening.
I did.
But your main job was really to find her.
I came here on a mission. I was scared to death because I was afraid of what I was going to find.
And when investigators are given the all clear to enter Holly's apartment,
there was a note that had survived the fire.
This letter.
What or who will they uncover? Oh, look at the cheeks there.
I know, huge cheeks, you know. Really very cute, huh? She was a little daddy's girl. She loved working at that hospital. I had no doubt she was going to stay in the Army because she loved it that much.
She found the job she loves.
Yep, she did.
She was up for the challenge. And from what I know, I think she did great.
She worked really hard so she'd be able to get a good life and a good job to be able to raise us better.
At the time of Holly's disappearance in July of 2008, her children, Harper, just 7, and 3-year-old Kendall, were far from the chaos, visiting their father back in Iowa.
We were not there when our mom was missing.
Authorities finally released the name and picture of 2nd Lieutenant Holly Wyman, a nurse at Womack Army Medical Center.
You decided to fly out to see exactly what's happening.
I did. You know, my first thought was go to the media like I've seen other families do. Ask Holly to surface, or if somebody's got Holly, ask them to bring her back, you know. And then I thought I should do that from Fayetteville. I should do that from Fort Bragg. Because if she is around there, you know, I can say, here I am, right here, and you can come to see me.
We're in constant contact with the family.
What exactly did the investigators tell you?
Well, that evening, when I got here and I met with the chief of detectives, one of the first questions I said is my daughter dead? And he said, we can't say that. He said, because that hasn't been proven. But he said, I can tell you we have grave, grave concern.
Once the flames were out, investigators combed through the charred remains of Holly's apartment, searching for anything the fire had not destroyed.
For the second day in a row, state and federal agents scoured the young woman's burned apartment.
The case would soon fall to Detective Jeff Locklear of the Fayetteville Police Department, the man tasked with uncovering what happened to Holly. What was your reaction when you learned that the woman that's missing was a soldier?
My partner and I, we were surprised. At that time, you know, the whole city was kind of on edge.
How far are we from her apartment?
So as the crow flies, maybe a mile, not very far at all. All of that stuff is pretty centralized around the mall area of Fayetteville.
Holly's apartment sits along this busy stretch of road just 5 miles outside the gates of Fort Bragg, where she worked as an Army nurse.
And her apartment building was actually the first building that you come to on the right.
Down here, 146.
Yep, 146.
7825, code 6.
Well, as soon as we got here, we could tell, you know, looking through the back window, that place had been burned. She, of course, was not in there.
What's the first thing you saw when you walked in?
Well, I think a better question would be what was the first thing that I smelled, and that was gasoline. And there was so much gasoline in the apartment poured on the floor and on the carpet that as my partner and I would walk, it would kind of gush up next to our chute. So the fire department was really concerned. They said the spark had light this whole place up.
Why was it the building was not completely burnt to the ground?
Anybody can strike a match, but you got to know you got to have enough air with this amount of gasoline that was poured in the apartment. they didn't have enough air. They should have left the door open to have vented it more, and we would have had a more complete fire.
So this was an arson, but not a very talented arson.
Exactly.
So in 2008, I was a forensic technician dispatched via radio to respond out to an apartment fire at that time. I initially just started taking photographs around. There's a certain level of emotion that teeters on excitement and anxiousness because you're kind of afraid of what you might find.
By the front door, investigators discovered Holly's purse, still holding her ID, credit cards, keys, and phone. For the detectives, the abandoned belongings are a red flag.
Typically, being a woman myself, if I were to go off somewhere, my purse and at least my personal belongings, credit cards, things of that nature would have come with.
As investigators push deeper into the apartment, the kitchen reveals its own disturbing clue.
I noticed that there was a knife block sitting over on the counter, and several knives were missing from the knife block.
We couldn't find any of those knives, like in a drawer or maybe dirty in the sink. They were missing from that house altogether.
We knew that could have been used as some sort of a weapon, so we certainly took note of that as well.
The missing knives raised the grim possibility that Holly was stabbed. There were also signs of blood spatter in her bedroom, along with another disturbing piece of evidence.
Probably one of the most alarming things about the master bedroom is, one, the carpet, the large amount of carpet that had been cut from around the door frame. It was almost, carved precisely to cut out a specific shape. All of the bedding had been removed to include the pillowcases. So that was a little out of the norm as well, of a home that had been lived in where there was absolutely no bed linen on it at all.
Then eagle-eyed detectives spot something easy to miss, a single bullet hole in the closet door.
Something potentially could have occurred right in front of the closet.
Amid the devastation, one piece of evidence survived, and it would become the investigation's biggest clue.
I just happened to notice an odd scrap of paper in the middle of the hallway, and once I uncrumpled the ball of paper, I notified Detective Locklear that there was a message on it.
A note survived the fire.
This letter.
We just thought it might have just been some trash and refuse, whatever, until we unraveled it.
Can you read that?
It says something to the effect of, she shot herself, and I tried to make it look like an accident.
The note, scrawled in jagged handwriting and unsigned, hinted at Holly's fate, but raised more questions than answers.
It wasn't consistent with what we were seeing, but obviously it was an important piece of evidence that we took note of.
Was the note a confession or a calculated attempt to throw investigators off the trail?
Even the smallest details are something that it may be insignificant now, but down the line it might be one of the most critical pieces of evidence that you have.
When Holly's father arrives at the scene, the evidence looks grim, and yet he holds out hope.
I believed Holly was alive. I said, I'm going to work to try to get her back here, and I'm going to do everything that I can do to try to get her back.
The thought was that she still could be alive and that we could find her, but we knew this also could end very tragically.
And with an active duty soldier missing, the U.S. Army Search and Rescue Mission kicks into high gear.
I mean, the Army's got a missing soldier, and that's a big deal.
We'll dedicate as many people as we have because this is one of our own. That's a sister.
His young mother, his soldier is missing. The clock was ticking.
But where was Holly? And is there a hidden secret in this last photo taken of her before she vanished? We're now inside Fort Bragg, North Carolina, about 250 square miles, about 50,000 active duty soldiers. Fort Bragg is a city unto itself, sprawling, relentless, and brimming with power. Soldiers here often call it the center of the military universe. And when Second Lieutenant Holly James goes missing, the U.S. Army mobilizes fast, launching an all-out search, working around the clock to find answers.
Good to see you.
Special Agent Al Diaz is the man in charge of the Army's Criminal Investigation Division at Fort Bragg. What do you remember when the news came out that Holly was missing?
Just like any time a service member shows up missing, there's just that natural sense of concern. And then what we can do to help local law enforcement find her.
Does it become 24 hours a day?
Absolutely. I mean, you want to put as much effort and resources to it until you find the individual. Are they just missing? Did they succumb to foul play? Like, you just don't know.
Fort Bragg sits like a fortress. At its heart is Womack Medical Center, where Holly worked as an Army nurse. With 13 access points in and out, CID's task was clear: reconstruct Holly's every step in the days before she vanished. Adam Armstrong is a special agent with CID. All right, so you get the call from the police about what was happening that afternoon.
So when we get that, we'll immediately get a picture of her out so we can start working on the reward posters and all that. And then we start figuring out, okay, how can we start putting together elements to go out and start searching?
Tell us where we're going.
Right now, we're just heading back to the one side of base where Holly was last seen.
Investigators learned that just 2 nights before she was reported missing, Holly had been seen at a late-night softball game on base. See, this is the last place that she was
right here on the right-hand side.
So this is the 8th, 2 days before they discovered that she was missing. This is where she was.
And so the sergeant first class had invited her out to come watch. And then after the game, she actually approached him. He actually helped out a lot. Played a big role in understanding the last time that she was seen.
This is the last photo of Holly taken just before she disappeared.
He said she was happy that night, bubbly, and just seemed to be in good spirits. With the cell phone analysis, and they were able to identify that she did leave the base and she did make it home.
Something had happened to Holly. You just felt like you had to get here?
Had to come.
While Army investigators combed the base, Holly's father, Jesse James, launches his own search for answers.
I had to get to Fort Bragg, so I had to think about how I was going to get sort of control of the situation.
Your father was on a mission to try to figure out what happened to his daughter, to your sister.
Absolutely. He was on a mission, and 10 seconds of hearing that his daughter was missing, he wasn't going to let it go, nor should he.
Thinking about my grandfather dropping everything to fly to Fayetteville and find her, that's a man who loves his daughter.
And it shows how loving and caring he is, and how deeply he loves his family.
The thought occurred to me that I'm going to go to the bank and see if she had any charges on her checking account or credit card since she disappeared. And I got up and drove over to the bank. I said, are there any recent charges in the past day to her credit card or her checking account?
A bank attorney confirms that there had been activity on Holly's account, charges dated the very day she vanished. So there was hope.
Oh, let's see, I walked away stepping lightly as quickly as I could, called Detective Locklear, and he almost hung up on me. He wanted to call that bank to get a warrant to get the checking account information.
But to Jesse's disappointment, what seems like a promising lead goes nowhere. It turns out those transactions were older ones, charges that had only just been cleared.
Took all the wind out of me and was right back where we started.
Desperate for answers, Jesse comes here to Holly's workplace at Womack Medical Center to try to retrace his daughter's footsteps. Yeah, so this is where she was, huh?
It is where she was. The morning after I got here, I just walked in and introduced myself, and I could just feel a shockwave go through the unit, you know, because they were experiencing it just like we were. She loved these people. She loved the people she worked with. I could sense a presence here of Holly. I could see her just running the hall. She never walked slow. I could see her just rushing through these hallways, and I could feel that. And I thought, I just might be putting my feet where her feet were, and that affected me.
Days into the investigation, there is still no sign of Holly. But then an unexpected twist, a possible link to another female soldier who had also gone missing from Fort Bragg.
These mysterious letters come into the Fayetteville Observer as well as the Fayetteville Police Department.
CID said, look, we got a second female soldier that's missing and has possibly been harmed.
We wondered, could this be connected to Holly's case?
Are we dealing with a copycat here?
A disturbing letter, marked with a chilling symbol.
And there it is on that mirror in the lipstick.
And could there be a connection to Holly?
I don't know, this has never happened. It's like something you see in a movie. When I left the crime scene, I didn't think that we would find her alive.
Summer 2008, Holly Lynn James has vanished. Teams of investigators search for clues in her burned out apartment near Fort Bragg Army Base. But it turns out Holly's not the only female soldier in the area to go missing that June.
Yeah, right at the same time, there's 2 different investigations, also with soldiers, also females.
It's 2 females now. Both are in the military, and both of the situations are nothing about them is normal. It was getting interesting here at the Fayetteville Police Department.
About a month before Holly disappeared, another female soldier from Fort Bragg went missing. The police got a call saying that there was a strange odor coming out of this hotel, and that took a chilling turn.
A deceased person was located inside room 143. She was dressed in a bathing suit, almost as like she had just left the pool. And then when the maintenance guy found her, the water was still running in the bathtub.
She was submerged in the bathtub, and so there was water everywhere. And there was actually a towel along the bottom edge of the door, so whoever had done it was thinking ahead. And so that way the water couldn't get out to alert anybody.
This room had been rented to a Megan Tuma. Megan was a soldier, an active duty soldier.
23-year-old Megan Tuma was a dental specialist who had been with the Army for 5 years. Her body was found in a hotel room June 21st. She was 7 months pregnant and may have been dead for days.
Megan Tuma had newly transferred to Fort Bragg from a military base in Germany. She was supposed to go to work, and she didn't show up for work. They did not notice that she was missing.
She's found on the 21st of June. The last time she was seen, I believe, was 15 June, and so there's about a 6-day gap. And then the hotel that she was staying in off post, she had one of those do not disturbs on. And so that's why she was in there for a lengthy time without anybody coming in.
But she was in an advanced state of decomposition. Some evidence of a struggle, some of what we believe to be blood, light blood transfer on the wall.
So she was murdered in that hotel.
The autopsy revealed she had been strangled. We flipped the switch then and it went to a homicide investigation. There was something else in the room, though, that made us really suspicious. The mirror outside the bathroom had a very large insignia drawn on it in lipstick. That insignia that was drawn there was the zodiac sign. Just a couple of days later, we get a letter through the mail from a person purporting to be somebody who is reenacting the zodiac markers from the West Coast.
From 1968 to 1974, several newspapers in the San Francisco area received a series of anonymous letters from the self-proclaimed Zodiac killer who claimed credit for up to 37 murders. The 2007 movie Zodiac put one of America's biggest unsolved murder cases on the big screen.
It's unsigned except for a symbol. Is it me? Or does that look like a gun sign?
A letter has surfaced claiming the murder is a work of a serial killer.
Good morning, Robin. That letter certainly has gotten everyone's attention. In a twisted case with very few leads, police have been forced to pay particular attention to this letter sent to a local newspaper. The writer signed the letter with a symbol made famous by the infamous Zodiac killer of the 1960s.
The Fayetteville Observer received a letter, and this is what the letter said. I am responsible for the dead body that was found on Saturday, June 21st at 11:30 in room 143. I confess that I have killed many times before in several states, but now I will start using my role model signature.
We were sitting down in a meeting with CID about this exact letter when we got the call to go out to Holly's apartment. We were like, what is going on here? It's like something you see in a movie. The guy's trying to communicate with the police by way of mail.
And you're looking at the possibility this could be the same killer.
Of course, the same symbol is on the bottom of this letter that was written on the mirror in the hotel room in the lipstick. So are we dealing with a copycat here?
We very much thought that it was a possibility these were connected. Was Holly this killer's next victim, which would have been just a couple of weeks after Megan Tuma's murder. So it was certainly of interest and of concern in the disappearance of Holly.
The public is demanding answers. Now people are making phone calls. They're calling the chief, the city council. Hey, is there a serial killer in Fayetteville?
But as investigators dig deeper into the Megan Tuma case, they begin to question that serial killer theory. Detectives are able to uncover evidence that her murder might have been a highly personal one, and the trail leads to someone very close to her.
She had began a relationship with an individual, and she had become pregnant as a result of that relationship. Well, it turns out he was married. He was in the military in the same base in Germany that Megan was assigned to. And we did a search warrant on his house, and you wouldn't believe it, he was actually actively taking a crime scene class at a local college here in Fayetteville.
Authorities begin to close in on the man that they think might be responsible for Megan's murder. And in that parallel investigation, detectives also uncover evidence that Holly's disappearance also might not have been random, that it too could have been a highly personal crime.
It was obvious that something terrible had happened to Holly, and we were fairly certain that it was someone close to her that had done it.
Could a woman connected to John Wymunk with a possible grudge against Holly be responsible for her disappearance?
She was a threat?
She was a threat.
Two women stationed at Fort Bragg have met with tragedy. Fayetteville, North Carolina is a town on edge.
I think it's horrible what happened.
Stopped in your tracks.
The community was scared. It sort of put a lot of pressure on us as well. The public is wanting to know, what are we doing about it?
But then a huge development in the Megan Tuma case as Fayetteville police close in on the person they suspect is responsible for her murder.
Police in North Carolina are expected to offer details today about the death of a pregnant Fort Bragg soldier.
Who was it that was ultimately found to be the murderer in this case?
The person that was responsible for taking Megan Tuma's life was Edgar Patino. He was the father of her child that she was carrying.
And then the person claiming to have killed her had sent letters to the newspaper, to the police, claiming to be like the Zodiac killer.
We were able to prove that the letters that were sent were typed at our suspect's house by a typewriter in our suspect's room.
Edgar was also married at the time, and he had killed Megan Tuma because she was pregnant with a child, and yet he was still married and he wanted to remain with his wife.
And he's the one that set that crime scene up. He's the one that drew that Zodiac sign on the mirror.
Dino was playing games with the cops, trying to be too clever for his own good and lead them astray, and I don't think they ever really bought it.
So at that point, we had ruled out that the killer of Megan Tuma was also the killer or person responsible for the disappearance of Holly.
So now the race is on to find the culprit behind Holly's disappearance. A review of the evidence at the crime scene has investigators convinced that Holly knew her assailant.
There was no evidence that there was an intruder who had forced their way into the home through the door, through a window, or something like that.
We never thought that some stranger walking down Morganton Road just decided to peek through this girl's window and do all of this. We were fairly certain that the person that had done all these things knew her and that she knew that person.
Did it seem to indicate that this may have been done by somebody who knew the details of that apartment?
Holly either let that person in or that person made his way into the apartment by some other means, possibly by a key.
Detectives believe that whoever was in Holly's apartment also tried to cover up evidence of what happened there.
We found actually a carpet cleaner, and we tested that carpet cleaner, and it tested positive for blood on a preliminary test. Just from what I'd seen, the reaction we got from the luminol, the amount of carpet that was cut from the floor in the bedroom, the bed sheets and clothing and stuff had been taken off the bed. All those were indicators for me that there had been at least some measure of crime scene cleanup that had tried to take place.
Whoever did this might have tried to cover their tracks, but that crumpled letter was left behind.
It appeared that whoever wrote that note was inside the apartment when this terrible thing happened to Holly, but it does not identify who they were or what their relationship to Holly was.
The person that wrote this letter is the person that tried to burn that apartment, which is the person that knows where Holly's at. That's the way I was looking at it.
At the time of Holly's disappearance, we knew she was going through a tumultuous time in her life.
As investigators look into Holly's personal life for clues, they learned that about 8 months before she went missing, Holly had filed a request for a temporary restraining order against an ex-girlfriend of her husband named Lindsay. In the filing, Holly alleges that for 18 months, the defendant has continuously posted pictures of herself and my spouse on the internet with comments directed at me and claims I have changed my phone number 6 times.
Holly would always call Lindsay John's little girlfriend. I think there was a lot of yelling, a lot of swearing. Holly was getting exhausted because of the bombardment. I think she was just at the end of her rope.
Lindsay denied harassing Holly. In fact, she tells investigators Holly was the one harassing her, and she was never served with Holly's request for a restraining order.
She was considered a threat. That's why we wanted to look at her, because we had to consider her.
But when investigators talk to her, she denies having anything to do with Holly's disappearance. They also discover she had an alibi on the date Holly disappeared.
What did she say? She provided a full breakdown of her timeline leading up to the disappearance of Holly.
She was not in Fayetteville the night Holly went missing.
So there was no evidence whatsoever to charge her for what happened to Holly.
She had no criminal culpability in this.
While Lindsay was fully cleared, investigators say she provides them with some revealing information about John Wymonk's activities the night of Holly's disappearance.
She actually told us about a phone call that she had with John, and John said that he was actually on his way to Fayetteville. So that was a key piece of evidence for us.
When she called him, he was like, I'm on my way, I can't do this anymore.
Why would he reveal this to her?
That's what we had to look at.
As investigators learn more about John Wymonk, they decide to bring him in again to answer questions about his wife's disappearance.
I'm at the point where I have no idea what's going on here. This is my wife. What comes with my wife?
That's what we're all trying to find out.
And a shocking discovery in the middle of nowhere will bring yet another Marine into the frame.
Guess where I just come from? There's soot and dirt on my shoe. Why do you think there's soot and dirt on my shoe? How am I supposed to believe anything that you say? For God's sake, son, I need to find this woman. I got to do something for these kids.
Right, you know that everything's okay. I'll talk to you later, baby. Tell him it's a Chevy. A Chevy.
This young mother, the soldier is missing. The clock was ticking.
What's going on with my wife? You know what I mean?
That's what we're all trying to find out.
Here was a mysterious person running through the parking lot and getting into a black pickup truck.
Today's the day of salvation. You better get on board right now.
What he specifically said is, are y'all looking for a blonde girl?
If you somehow committed a perfect murder and left no evidence, you could get away with it.
He's like, what's the worst I've ever done? He said, the worst thing I've ever done is kill somebody.
He carved her name into a bullet and told her, this one's for you.
It's come to Jesus time. Now you tell me the rest of it. Tell me the rest of it.
For many years, I woke up at 4 a.m., went to the basement so I could cry, and called out for my daughter. When I had contacted you, I had no idea it would be so complicated. You stole my daughter from me.
Holly was a second lieutenant nurse corps officer. She was assigned to Womack Army Medical Center at Fort Bragg. All of her patients loved her. Her coworkers loved her.
That morning of the 10th of July, that was the first indication that something strange had happened.
She didn't show up for work, and she wouldn't answer any of the calls from her friends. And for them, that was a big deal.
Her coworkers there became concerned, so they went to her apartment and found that it had been set on fire.
But what the scene did tell us was that something horrible had happened inside that apartment.
You just don't know the full extent of what has occurred, but you're also kind of afraid of what you might find.
Your father was on a mission to try to figure out what happened to his daughter.
He was on a mission and he wasn't going to let it go.
I was living like in two different worlds, I think. One believing that she's alive, another that she's dead.
So this young mother, this soldier is missing. The clock was ticking.
There was a lot of pressure on us.
It had been 3 days since Holly James had disappeared. Police had taken a close look at John Wymont's former girlfriend, but investigators discovered that she had an alibi for the night Holly went missing and was nowhere near Fayetteville.
What was her demeanor when you were talking to her investigator?
She was scared that she had been drawn into this mess.
She was ruled out as a suspect in the investigation, but she had provided information that was helpful.
Investigators say the former girlfriend is able to provide them with an inside look at the relationship between John and Holly.
They had been married for approximately a year, but towards the end of this 1 year marriage, it had become rather complicated between them.
Holly's brother, Bo, says the phone calls between John and Holly were becoming increasingly volatile.
He would be on the phone and then he would be just screaming at her.
You're watching him scream and you could hear your sister Holly reacting to that. What was she doing?
Crying, telling him to stop. And I felt like, well, I need to say something, but at the same time I thought, well, this is a married couple. I thought about if somebody tried doing that to me, it might upset me.
As investigators looked deeper into their relationship, they learned from friends close to Holly that John seemed insecure that he held a lower rank than his wife.
I think it was something of a resentment that she was a woman and she outranked him.
John Wymunk was a corporal?
Yes.
So his level of skills was pretty high end?
I would say it was good. He's still honing his skills and still learning.
Her being an officer, she outranked him, and he would always tell her, "You're not a real officer," things like that, just putting her down.
We had a non-commissioned officer married to an Army second lieutenant. It just doesn't happen. That's the first time in my whole career that I had seen something like that.
According to Holly's friends, it was clear that John's attitude and frequent yelling directed towards his wife and distance between their bases was putting a strain on the relationship.
I didn't talk to you, so Alicia. I just wanted to send you a quick hi and let you know that everything's okay.
They lived 2.5 hours apart. Eventually their marriage became estranged.
She had put up with the emotional abuse, and I think she finally realized that it wasn't going to get any better.
And as investigators continued to dig, they begin to realize that the alleged abuse may have been more than emotional.
We had done a number of interviews with her friends, some of the ladies that worked with her at Womack. First thing they told us was how violent John had been in the past.
Armed with these insights into Holly and John's marriage, investigators head to Camp Lejeune to talk with him.
It's where the Marines are. They have a lot of questions for Holly's husband, John Wymonk, about where he was and what he did that night.
NCIS agent brought him in from the command, interviewed him just to try and figure out what was going on and what he knew about Holly's whereabouts.
Hey, John, here's my guidebook. Hey, John. How you doing, sir? Sit. Pop coffee down, buddy. Sit. John, Jeff Locklear from Fayetteville.
He expressed that there were concerns for his wife, that he did not know where she was.
I'm at the point where I have no idea what's going on, okay? This is my wife. Right, everybody knows that. That is my apartment. What the f is going on with my wife? You know what I mean?
That's what we're all trying to find out.
After a brief conversation, the agent conducting the interview noticed a smell of alcohol and that Corporal Wymonk was likely intoxicated or under the influence of alcohol.
I have been drinking.
Okay.
And I don't want the things that I say to be turned around.
I don't want to talk with you now that I can smell your alcohol. I don't want to talk to you about legal stuff while that's in question in my mind. Let's handle all that tomorrow.
So he's free to go. He's not in custody or whatever.
So what did you learn in this investigation here?
It gives me a chance to look him in his eye. It gives me a chance to smell him. There's a difference between regular sweating and stress sweat. You can smell that guy.
Yeah, so you knew at that point.
Yeah, he ain't telling me everything, right?
In any type of case where we have a missing person, we have suspicious circumstances. I mean, the spouse is obviously a person of interest. NCIS will immediately look at them and trying to establish, are they related or are they unrelated? Either way.
We continue to gather evidence, to interview people, really focus in on John's movements and whereabouts around July 9th.
But as investigators focus their attention on John Wymonk, they are also conducting a canvass of Holly's apartment complex and get a tip that is about to pay off in a big way.
Here was a mysterious person running through the parking lot and getting into a black pickup truck. It gave us something to go on. It was a turning point in the investigation.
As investigators continue their urgent search for any leads linked to Holly's disappearance, they get their first big break in the case at her apartment complex.
We began interviewing neighbors. Did anybody see anything? Did anybody hear anything?
We interviewed one young lady, and she said that the night that apartment was burned, she was outside walking her dog. And she said that she saw a guy running through the shadows. She said he was purposely trying to stay in the shadows, and that he had dark clothing on, and that he was a white male. She did distinctly remember him running out to a truck.
It gave us something to go on.
Investigators talked to anyone involved in Holly's life to find out more details about that truck and who it may have belonged to, including at Camp Lejeune, where she often spent time with her husband.
As the police canvassed and interviewed people at Camp Lejeune, they found out that a young Marine named Kyle had been asking around about borrowing a pickup truck to help a friend move some things, and that was in the time period that Holly had disappeared.
Kyle is in fact Lance Corporal Kyle Alden, and investigators discover the identity of the man who he said he was helping to move. It was none other than Holly's husband, John Wymonk.
This became a very important piece of information, so we wanted to talk to Kyle and see if we could connect the dots.
Hey, buddy. Hey, I'm Locklear.
Alden is brought in for an interview at Camp Lejeune with Detective Jeff Locklear.
This apartment, we got a fire at the apartment. This is okay. Do you know who owns that apartment? Without me even getting into specifics, go ahead and tell me who owns the apartment in Fayetteville. Who used to live there?
John Wymonk.
John Wymonk. And you know John?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
So you have all this evidence. You go to interview Alden, so you treat him like your buddy, to be somebody who you want to be nice to.
Never had to raise my voice to him. We weren't cussing and yelling at him. We weren't accusing him of anything. Just going through and stuff, and kind of set the stage for him to begin to let his guard down. So.
And you gotta get to Fayetteville. And you went and picked up the stuff.
We get to Fayetteville, walked to the back of the apartment building, grabbed the grill, left it over the railing, and put it in the truck.
So you guys didn't go inside his old apartment?
No, sir.
Kyle Alden tells Locklear that he and Wymonk went to Holly's apartment but could not get inside. He then says that they left. He went back home to go sleep with his wife. But it turns out that Locklear had already spoken to Alden's wife.
She says, I don't know what the heck's going on, okay? But not only that, but he's telling me to cover him. Okay?
He was lying about large elements of the story.
This is true.
At this point of the interview, Locklear decides to dramatically up the ante with Alden.
For God's sake, son, I need to find this woman. I got to do something for these kids. Tell me, help me, help you. That life wraps out. I need for you to grab it. I need for you to hold on to it. If you don't get it right now, okay, tomorrow is going to be too late.
Yes, sir.
I'm telling you, for God's sake, son, tell me. Tell me. Tell me. Now's the time. Yesterday was history.
Yes, sir.
Tomorrow's a mystery. Today is what we're dealing with. Today is the day of salvation. You better get on board right now.
Yes, sir.
He seems to be holding back. We think he knows more than he's telling us.
Did John hurt Holly?
I have no idea.
Do you think John hurt Holly?
Kinda, but I hope not.
I do too. I would love for Holly to call me right now. That ain't gonna happen.
But as Detective Locklear is turning the screws on Kyle Alden, the interview is suddenly interrupted.
Somebody came and knocked on the interview door.
Go outside and talk to the boss a minute.
If somebody's stopping the interview, the building better be on fire. And somebody did.
A 911 call has come in from a forestry service in nearby Onslow County.
Hey, what? Yes, you heard me right.
That could lead to happiness or heartache.
What he specifically said is, are y'all looking for a blonde girl?
It had been 4 days since Lieutenant Holly James had vanished, and at this point, John Wymonk has emerged as the prime suspect in the disappearance of his wife, a fact not lost on his commanding officer, Colonel Kirk Cordova.
The prime suspect wasn't Ray, and it was one of my Marines.
And given the reputation that he had, did you think at that time that maybe he is somebody that could be guilty of this?
Yes, given his nature and the fact that he was somewhat of a hothead and wanted to be in control all the time. As soon as I heard Wymonk was our prime suspect, I assigned somebody to him to make sure he didn't leave, didn't run, so we knew where he was at all times.
While investigators methodically build their case against Wymonk, Jesse James decides to take a more direct approach, confronting him in person. What did he say exactly?
I drove out to Camp Lejeune, and he was with like 3 friends. I saw some arrogance, saw that he was drinking. I just leaned into him, very, very close. And I said, John, if you somehow committed a perfect murder and left no evidence behind, and no one but you knows it, there's a sliver of chance that you could get away with it. But I said, if one person knows, you're gonna die for the crime.
What'd you read in his face?
Fear. Fear that all the arrogance was gone. If I'd have had a gun that day, I would have killed him.
I want you to tell me what happened. I gotta find Holly. For God's sake, where's Holly? Okay.
Police continue to try and chip away at Wymonk's fellow Marine Kyle Alden, but if he knows anything about Holly's disappearance, he's not giving up the goods.
Investigators knew he wasn't telling the truth and that he was hiding something.
He was stonewalling the investigation.
Oh yeah, I was surprised that he could hold out as long as he held out.
So he was in the middle of an interview, and suddenly some information came in that something was found at this field about 15 miles away from Camp Lejeune.
NCIS received a phone call. What we discovered was that the North Carolina Forestry Service had responded to a fire in a wooded area in Sneads Ferry, North Carolina.
So when those guys got to the scene and they go over there, it's pretty clear that there's a body in a shallow grave that looks like someone has tried to burn. They put the call in to the sheriff's office.
We're down here on this fire. We need Sheriff's Officer down here for possible burned up body. You did what? Yes, you heard me right.
When they called you, they knew it was a body.
They said, we believe we found a burial site, and this might be the missing female from Fayetteville.
What he specifically said is, are y'all looking for a blonde girl? And obviously, that hit really close to home. It was a sad day in that we knew what had ultimately happened to Holly.
The authorities shifted their focus here to Sneads Ferry, North Carolina. This is about 130 miles away where Holly was living in her apartment, only about 15 miles away from Camp Lejeune.
If you were looking to hide a body, it would be a good place to do it. It's a very remote spot.
We drove out there to the crime scene, to the burial site.
You saw a body there, a burnt body.
I saw human remains rolled up in what appeared to be an air mattress. There was a hatchet in the burn pit with the remains. I saw a number of knives that looked like they came out of a butcher block.
Were those the ones that were also identified that we saw in the pictures inside her apartment that day when it was found out that she was missing?
Right, so those knives that were found with the body matched the style, make, and type that were missing from Holly's apartment.
The best way I can explain it to you is it was an oval-shaped 6-inch hole in the ground, long enough you know to place her body.
Well, she was not buried. She was just laid there for the fire. And then how did they ignite it?
Gasoline.
Just poured it all around the area. Jesse James is at his son's house at Camp Lejeune when a detective from Fayetteville Police calls him with the news.
And of course I said, let's go. I'm going out there, to see the remains. And he said, I don't think you should do that. I don't think you should come out there with us. And I said, well, I don't care really what you think at this point. I'm going out where my child's remains were found. And he says, well, let me just try to make it a little clearer. There isn't much to see. He said the body had been burning for days.
I know that when it came to finding her, there was a lot of love poured into it, and that is something that I really appreciate, that people who didn't necessarily know her still felt the need to find her and loved her as deeply as they did.
An autopsy would confirm that the dismembered remains found in the pit were Holly's. The cause of death was a single gunshot wound to the head.
During the initial crime scene process, one of the things that kind of stood out to me was a small hole in the closet door of the master bedroom. I didn't know why, I couldn't explain it. Sure enough, as soon as we cut that door into, a piece of bullet fragment fell out. So my suspicions initially were correct, that it looks like she was laying down on the floor in the bedroom. The round was fired into her head, it exited her head, it hit the concrete floor, ricocheted up, and rested in the closet door.
One of the critical pieces that you need is the physical body of the person that was killed, and we had that now. And so the first thing we wanted to do is go talk to Kyle Alden again and ask him what really happened that day.
But would this tough Marine finally crack?
It's come to Jesus time, all right? But you can't get forgiveness unless you ask for forgiveness. You better get it out right now.
Investigators have finally discovered the remains of Holly Lynn James at a site deep in a pine forest. But Kyle Alden denies knowing anything about what became of her.
Have you guys found her body?
I'm gonna be honest with you, I mean, we will find her, all right? I can promise you that.
As the questioning continues, Detective Locklear decides to see if some psychological persuasion can get Alden to open up.
And then I guess that's the whole crew.
Photos tend to help get people in their feelings, and that's the reason I introduced some photos in the interview.
So now you're showing him the pictures of these two adorable kids.
Mm-hmm. He tried to not look at the photos. Every time I would catch him kind of leading off, not looking at the photos, I said, no, look at her and her kids. And that pressure really worked with him.
Finally, Alden starts revealing details about the day of Holly's disappearance. He tells detectives that John Wymonk called to ask if he could borrow a truck.
I told him I can make a couple phone calls and see if I can get a truck. He's like, okay, I'll meet you in Clinton.
What is this?
Kyle Alden and John Wymonk stopped at a Shell gas station in Clinton, North Carolina, which is about halfway between here and Camp Lejeune.
And then we go into the gas station. He's like, you want something to drink? It's like, okay. And then we go back outside. We talk a little bit. He's like, what's the worst thing you've ever done? And he said, the worst thing I've ever done is killed somebody.
What do you think he means by this?
I do not know. I do not want to know.
What else does he say?
He's like, you can't say anything about this, but I need your help doing something.
Okay, and did you ask him what he means?
No.
Are you worried at this point?
I'm kind of worried. I'm kind of hesitant. What could he have done? Why does he not want me to tell anybody?
The dam's beginning to break. Like the information's beginning to come forward.
Alden says they leave the Shell station, and about an hour later, the pair reaches their destination, Holly's apartment in Fayetteville. Here, Alden changes his story, now saying that the two did, in fact, go into the apartment.
You both get out of the truck.
And then we walk down the sidewalk, back over to his apartment. Then I come into the master bedroom, and the carpet's torn out.
I just don't think that he was prepared when he arrived at her apartment for what he saw.
So you guys carried that stuff out of the truck?
Yes.
What did you do next?
We go back into the wood bag thing, and then we just pick it up and carry it.
How much did the bag weigh?
Probably about 150 pounds.
What do you think was in the bag?
Thought crossed my mind, like, the worst thing he's ever done is killed somebody. We're at his house, there was a blood spot on the wall, there's a blood spot on the bed, there's a blood spot on the floor. What the hell happened? Am I carrying out a body?
He got really nervous talking about what he saw when he first arrived at the apartment. His carotid artery, you can watch that in a person, and when they really get nervous, it's almost like there's a little small green tree frog right in their throat. It's just throbbing.
We drive around for a little bit, and then he says, hey, we need to go to Walmart's.
Then a brazen act is caught on video.
When they got to Walmart and parked, they actually went to the bed of the truck, picked her body up, took it, put it in the cab of the truck, closed the door, locked it, and went inside and shopped.
We grabbed 2 jugs of Shell oil.
They pay for the items at the register and head back to the truck.
And then came back out and removed her body from the interior of the truck and put it back in the bed. We retrieved that video. That was a really key piece of evidence for us that they had the callousness to do that.
Alden says the pair then head back towards Camp Lejeune, stopping along the way to pick up Wymonk's car. And then from there, they each drive to a secluded spot.
Sweat. Then I continue to put the bags in the tote in the trunk, the big bag in the backseat of the car, and then I take off.
Alden says he then continues home, solo, and that was the end of his involvement.
So any details that we missed, son? Not that I can think of right.
But Detective Locklear has a hunch that Alden has more to tell. Could bringing him back for one more day of questioning finally break the case fully open?
The next day, when I walked back in that interview room, I had my chest poked out and my tail feathers were high because I was armed with information that I didn't have when I first went in there. And I let him know it.
Guess where I just come from? There's soot and dirt on my shoes. Why do you think there's soot and dirt on my shoes?
I have no idea.
I went where Holly's at. You have been lying to me since we met one another, right? But I don't understand why.
Sensing that Alden is still holding back, Detective Jeff Locklear, who happens to be a preacher's son, invokes a higher authority.
It's come to Jesus time, all right? But you can't get forgiveness unless you ask for forgiveness. You better get it out right now. Now you tell me the rest of it. Tell me the rest of it.
Will that appeal get Alden to see the light? Will he finally tell the truth about what really happened to Holly?
I tell him, this stuff is scaring me. I don't know what to do.
In the NCIS building at Camp Lejeune, it's been 3 long days of questioning for Marine Kyle Alden. And it's at this point he finally tells investigators what he claims to know about John Wymonk's involvement in the death of his wife, Holly.
He called me, it was around 6:30. He said that he'd been there all morning and all afternoon. Say, I killed her. I didn't ask him how he killed her. I just said why.
You have to be careful in situations like this. He's telling me a story, and if I encourage him and it's not correct, you go down the wrong road here.
Told me that she didn't die right away, so he had to hit her again. And I told him I don't want to hear that.
But he still kept telling you, didn't he?
Yes, sir.
What did he say?
He's like, the look in her eye, he'd never seen anything like it, the look in her eye.
Kyle Alden then says he and John Wymonk are not yet done at the apartment.
He told me he had to burn the apartment and he had to let it burn for a really long time because he wanted to try to get rid of all the evidence.
They had devised a plan and made an agreement that they would drive her remains back to the area of Camp Lejeune and find somewhere at that point to bury the remains.
Investigators say they choose a place familiar to Alden.
Alden was living not far from here. How far away was he?
As the crow flies, about a half a mile. The reason they picked this area was he was familiar with it because he had been back here doing some target shooting. That's how he even knew that this place existed. I had enough probable cause at that time to charge him with the arson and the conspiracy to commit the arson. That allowed me to arrest him, Alden, and arrest Wymonk and get my hands on him and get him back to Fade.
With both men in custody, the focus now switches back to John Wymonk and what possible motive could he have to kill his wife. Investigators believe the answer to that question lies in what they were told about John's alleged violent treatment of Holly.
The first time we really talked about it is when her and John Wymont got in the fight, and she showed up at my house. Her hair was a mess. She had scratches and claw marks all over her back.
We came out a couple of weeks on vacation to visit Holly, a couple of weeks before she was murdered, and I met him again once there. I just really didn't have a sense that there was anything until she began talking about a divorce.
Authorities come to learn that Holly filed for a protective order against John Wymont in May, less than 2 months before she was killed, in which she alleged a chilling encounter with her husband.
We discovered that there had been an incident in the prior months leading up to this where he had threatened suicide and also held a gun to her head.
To her head?
Correct.
Threatening to kill her?
Yes.
The night that Holly left John at the apartment, she was kind of telling me everything that happened, that John had threatened her. He carved her name into a bullet and told her, "This one's for you."
The fact that he was in the military and went as extreme as he did makes it so much worse, because his main priority should have been protecting her. That was his main job, was to protect a mother and a wife, and he couldn't, and he wouldn't do that.
After Holly did not show up for a court hearing on the protective order, the case was dismissed.
You need anything to drink? Glass of water. You want some water? Fair enough.
Despite the growing amount of evidence against John Wymont implicating him in Holly's murder, Wymont still will not talk.
Armed with the information that Kyle had given investigators, they gave John Wymont an opportunity to come clean and tell what happened. He said he wasn't going to talk with them without an attorney present.
Stand up. Follow me out here.
He was then charged with first-degree murder, second-degree arson, as well as conspiracy to commit second-degree arson.
Corporal John Wymont is accused of killing his wife, Second Lieutenant Holly Wymont, a nurse stationed at Fort Bragg.
My client is presumed to be innocent. We don't want this case tried in the media. We want it to be tried in a court of law.
Taking a case to trial, there's always risk involved. In this case, we had very good information from Kyle. The thought was that Kyle would testify at trial as to what happened, and then we would put all the circumstantial evidence together to point to the fact of what John Wymont had done that night.
While John Wymont pleads not guilty to all charges in connection with the arson and his wife's death, Kyle Alden is now cooperating with authorities. He agrees to take Detective Locklear through the night of Holly's murder at the scene of the crime.
It was very telling to bring him back to the spot. He had never been here before, right before that night. This is only the second time he had ever been here, and he could still remember where he parked.
I parked right there besides the Chrysler.
It was worth taking him back out there and having him tell it from his own, the viewpoint of the guy that was there the night this happened.
And from there, you guys went to...
we went back out towards Jacksonville Smiths Ferry area.
Did he give an indication of why it is that he did what he did, what Alden did?
The only explanation that I'm aware of is that Wymont, being another Marine, asked him for help, and he agreed.
You're a Marine, would you do that?
Absolutely not.
After he confessed, Kyle Alden was charged, and he ultimately pleaded guilty.
Kyle Alden was sentenced to approximately 5 years in prison.
And at a hearing for John Wymont, Holly's brother Bo sees the man he once called a friend, now accused of killing his sister.
But we stood up when Wymont came in, and he didn't even look. He didn't turn around.
Ultimately, in 2010, John Wymont pled guilty to first-degree murder.
John Wymont is sentenced to life in prison for arson, conspiracy to commit arson, and Holly's murder.
The district attorney called me, and he said, I have Wymont here. His parents have convinced him to take a plea of life without parole. I said, you just take the plea and send him to prison. So that's what they did.
Did you hope there was a death penalty?
I personally wanted it, yeah. It's a different opinion than my dad's.
With John Wymock now behind bars, Jesse James still has questions.
Did you expect he would write back to you?
Will this father finally get answers from his daughter's killer?
She was honored in many ways.
It was a lavish funeral, and I did it on purpose because Holly was a big personality. The police in the community from several communities came, and the Patriot Guard. It looked like a state funeral.
Dignitary.
Dignitary, yeah. And that's what I wanted for Holly.
What was it like then to be at a funeral like that?
It's heartbreaking. And I just uncontrollably cried. It was awful. It was just in so many ways.
You put them together. The man that you introduced to your sister ultimately killed her.
Right. It's part of what haunts me for a long part of my life, absolutely.
But that's looking back. Nobody can ever predict something that they already learned.
But once you go through something, it's really hard to take it away. Pretending it didn't happen is hard, but coming to terms with it is even harder.
Sometimes I think every time I take a step here, maybe I'm taking a step in a place she has stepped. And that gives me a sense of presence.
Here in the hallway of Womack Army Medical Center, where Holly once worked, her memory stands eternal, a silent testament to a life that will not be forgotten.
Does that say down there?
In memory of Second Lieutenant Holly James, for her joy, her service, and her support of mothers and babies.
Well, she was loved.
Yes, she was.
The pain of losing a daughter never fades, and neither do the unanswered questions.
So after all these years, you still want to know more?
Yeah, I'd like to know more.
Recently, Jesse made the difficult decision to reach out to John Wymock, the man who murdered his daughter, through an online prisoner website.
John, both my son Jesse and I carry no anger toward you, but only grief for the loss of Holly. The level of grief we carry leaves no room for you. To my surprise, I did receive a response to my letter. The response goes like this. Thank you for reaching out to me. You are entitled to answers, to which I will give them to you as best I can. I hope this will provide some closure for all parties involved.
Did you expect he would write back to you?
I thought he would. It took a long time, and the return letter went into the things like, yeah, we need to talk.
But rather than taking responsibility, Wymock outlines a process centered on his own terms and not on the needs of Jesse.
Even in that letter that he wrote, there's no apology. He does not care about what he did. He only cares about what's happening to him.
You are now communicating with the man who murdered your daughter. If you were to talk to him in person, would that be something that would be somewhat helpful to you?
I think being in the same room would have a negative impact on me. John, I can assure you that I have no interest in engaging in restorative justice or any sense of closure with you. How could you possibly restore 17 years of life without Holly? I fought to live a life of joy because I didn't want to be a victim of John Wymock too.
So you've never been there?
Never been there.
Would you want to go there?
At this point, I think I would like to do that.
Years after his daughter was discovered here, Jesse James visits the sacred, hallowed ground for the first time. Not just to face where Holly's body was abandoned, but to honor her memory.
Not only for myself, but I'd like to represent my family and her friends that did not get to see her again.
What do you think about now?
I think that I miss my protector. She was always the big sister.
Today, those who loved Holly keep her memory alive, remembering her as the devoted mother and dedicated soldier she always strived to be. What would you like the world to remember about Holly?
I think she should be remembered for trying to give so much. My sister loved protecting the people she cared about.
Got some smile too, right there.
I want people to remember her as a really good mother with the time she had.
I am very proud of who she was. A patriot is someone who goes above and beyond. And that's what she did, like no matter what.
Isn't she sweet?
She put everything above herself. And I don't think there's anything more patriotic than that.
What a beautiful picture. Now, the Dolly Parton song comes to mind when I hear Jolene.
Jolene, Jolene.
Did that have any impact on your naming her?
It was because of that song. Something's not right. Jolene's not answering. Not hearing from Jolene on Mother's Day? On her birthday?
I thought she was just seeing somebody else.
Urgent search for a missing mother in Nassau County.
What do you think happened to Joe? Thought she's hanging out with these bad dudes, bad crowd.
Sounds like she had trouble with figuring out men.
She did. First thought was the boyfriend, had done something.
And this is your opportunity here to clear your name, and you're acting like a jackass.
I know I'm doing Jolene. Listen, I love her. I miss her.
At some point, Jolene confides in you some thoughts, some suspicions.
It is the actual moment where we perceive we are looking at something more sinister. Who is that figure that walks across in the darkness?
You can see them walk around a building just as I did, and then they go ahead and enter the building.
No one had any idea how truly unhinged that she was.
When I saw the video, hair on the back of my neck stand up moment.
Nestled on the tip of Amelia Island sits North Florida's Fernandina Beach. With its shrimp boats bobbing in the harbor next to oak-shaded streets, both tourists and locals come to savor the island life.
I would describe Fernandina Beach as a small area that a lot of people come to visit. It's very welcoming.
It's kind of like a hippie beach town.
We have a shrimp drop where we have a big lit up shrimp, and they drop it just like they do New Year's at the ball, with the ball.
You have all the pirate ships. There's even Pippi Longstocking's houses down in Old Town.
That house was made famous in the 1988 film The New Adventures of Pippi Longstocking, based on the children's book.
Hello. Come on, Pippi.
Our crime rate in Nassau County is very low when you compare to our surrounding areas.
But on Mother's Day in May of 2018, Jolene Cummings, a single mom of 3, never arrives to pick up her children from her ex-husband, Jason Cummings. Evening is now falling over northern Florida, and Jolene's 2 young sons are waiting in a grocery store parking lot with their dad. The minutes tick by, but their mom never arrives to pick them up.
And it was her birthday, and it was Mother's Day weekend. She always wanted to spend that time with her kids.
What were her plans as far as you knew?
It would have been the first time that she would have been able to celebrate Mother's Day and her birthday with the boys, and she would be at my house.
Why in the world would this mom suddenly disappear on such a big day? Those close to her say that as a young, working, single mother, Jolene would often feel overwhelmed and take off, making time for herself. Might she have just gone off and done something without telling you?
Has Jolene gone off in the past? Oh, yes. Have I been able to contact her? Yes.
Did you have a feeling?
Yeah. Yeah, not hearing from Jolene on Mother's Day, on her birthday. Yes, I had this gut-wrenching feeling all day. And I told my husband, I need to call this in. He said, no, Aunt, wait till tomorrow. So at 8 o'clock on Monday morning, I called.
8:08 a.m., Ann Johnson contacted the sheriff's office and reported that her adult daughter, Jolene Cummings, was missing. She stated that no one had heard from Jolene for at least 2 days. I was named the lead investigator on this case. It was urgent to me from the start. While it's certainly not uncommon for an adult to, go missing or take off for a couple of days, there were some things that really concerned Miss Johnson about it.
Her daughter would have spent Saturday at the Tangles hair salon where she had worked for 6 years.
So Tangles is a salon that's right on the edge of Yulee and Fernandina Beach. It's in a shopping center. There are multiple chairs, multiple stylists working there day in and day out.
Hi, ladies.
Hey.
I'm Deborah.
I'm Brittany.
Brittany, nice to meet you.
I'm Jill.
Hey, Jill. Nice to meet you.
She was my hairdresser. That's how we met.
Somebody said that she was kind of a hairapist.
Yeah.
Like a therapist, but doing hair.
Yeah, absolutely, because she would always give you the best advice.
Now, what was she like as a mom? Because on the one hand, she had this creative career, but then she was also a pretty young mom.
She was there to support them. I think she grew up and she didn't get to do the things that other kids got to do sometimes. So she really wanted to make sure her daughter did everything that she didn't get to do.
Those boys and her daughter were just the love of her life. The place that she was living in was my brother-in-law's. It wasn't the best, but she was saving to move.
I wanted to go to Jolene's home to find out where she lived and to see if there were any clues there, anything there that might give me an idea where she might be. Jolene's stepfather gave me access to the home. When I went inside, there were cabinets that were hanging by one hinge. It appeared as if somebody had actually punched and kicked holes in the wall. This evidence was very worrisome for a person who's gone missing.
It's clearly a disturbing and suspicious scene. And there's one person investigators want to talk to, Jolene's ex-husband, Jason Cummings.
Anytime someone goes missing, you have a list of people that you probably want to talk to. Exes are always at the top of that list.
Jason and Jolene had somewhat of a rocky relationship.
There was an injunction in place between Jolene and her ex-husband, that a no violence injunction that said there'd be no violence between the two individuals. Jason he made it obvious that it was contentious about custody of kids, that the court had not decided yet.
Texts between the former couple reveal a volatile relationship, with Jolene once writing, "These kids have seen and heard enough," and Jason responding, "See you in court, Jolene." And in another text, Jason writes, "I hate you, and tomorrow you will hate me. I promise that."
They still had an amicable relationship. They worked together for the love of the children.
We wanted to talk to him, see if he knows anything, knows about where she may be or has seen her.
I made contact with Jason Cummings via phone. I scheduled him to come in the next morning to do an interview at the sheriff's office.
It's now Tuesday, 2 days since Jolene was last seen, and her ex-husband, Jason Cummings, is sitting in the Nassau County Sheriff's Office with Detective Harrington. Telling him how Jolene's happy exterior hid a darker side of her personality.
She's an angry person, but she's also happy as she's the type of woman that would listen. You can see her on her face, but she wouldn't take a word.
When Jason Cummings is answering these questions, he did let police know that it wasn't uncommon for Jolene to sometimes disappear without explanation.
But I was like, look, you need to get it together. This right here is the reason why I left her, because she would disappear for a few days. She started her little Houdini acts, and I thought she was just seeing somebody else.
And Jason Cummings let police know that he had an alibi for the day that Jolene went missing. He was with the kids, and he had his parents that he was around who could verify that.
And where did you go with that when you left there? Kids ate, we all ate. Granny and Papa, while they were getting ready for church, me and the kids went out there and they were really full of their skin.
The dad of Jolene's two youngest kids then steers investigators in a completely different direction, mentioning somebody else close to his ex-wife.
He said, if you're gonna look at anybody, you need to look at this new guy she's dating. He's not a good guy.
She's hanging out with this bad dude, this bad crowd.
Now, the Dolly Parton song comes to mind when I hear Jolene. Did that have any impact on your naming her?
Yeah, it was because of that song.
Jolene, Jolene, Jolene.
Dolly Parton's song is J-O-L-E-N-E. And I found the J-O-L-E-E-N, which meant pretty. That fit her because when she was born, she had the eyes of green and her hair was auburn.
Skin and eyes of emerald green.
Urgent search for a missing mother in Nassau County. Our Julia today is live at the state attorney's office.
At the time of Jolene Cummings' disappearance, I was an investigative reporter for First Coast News, the ABC affiliate there in Jacksonville. The mother of Jolene Cummings, who said she's heartbroken.
We will continue to search for Jolene. We have searched for her utilizing all of our resources, including canines, horses, and boats.
People are talking about it like crazy. They're asking questions. They're wanting answers.
So days go by, nothing. What are you thinking?
It was the most horrible time of my life. I was searching, friends were searching, my husband was searching with me.
Constant alerts on the news and that she was being searched for. People were asked to keep an eye out for Jolene's vehicle.
Those with any information about where Cummings is urged to call the Nassau County Sheriff's Office.
What did you think?
I just stopped. I was frozen. I didn't know what to think.
I thought that this is not my Jolene. This has to be somebody else. And then I went online to look it up, and sure enough, it was her picture, and I just had a sinking feeling.
Now, detectives are ready to interview their very first person of interest. And that would be Jolene's ex-husband, Jason Cummings. These two had a volatile relationship.
What do you think happened to Jolene? Me personally, I hope that she's no one to be found. And now she's got all this attention on her, she's probably scared. Is that your hope or is that your thought? What is my hope?
But while he's in the hot seat, Cummings tells Detective Harrington that he should be looking at another Jason in Jolene's life.
I just know this person named Jason. I've never met him. I got text messages from people saying he's bad news.
When I asked him about, why he was so concerned about this person, he just said that he had a criminal history. He was very concerned about Jolene and more specifically being around a type of person like that.
I don't know if she'll pop up any minute and say, hey, we're spending a lot of time for, no reason. She's hanging out with these bad dudes, bad crowd. She should be doing this.
After police completed their questioning, Jason Cummings was able to leave the Nassau County Sheriff's Office.
After checking out Jason Cummings' alibis, he was cleared of any wrongdoing. The next person of interest that we wanted to look at is her current boyfriend, who she had broken up with, Jason G.
When Jolene had gone missing, I had heard that she had had a boyfriend who was not the best of news.
It sounds like while she might have been bright and airy, she had trouble with figuring out men.
She did. She had been married and divorced. A boyfriend, I believe he's had kind of some trouble with the law.
A record.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yeah.
Jolene also liked the underdog. Irrelevant what their past was.
Jolene wanted to fix people, and I think that's really why she dated him.
Jason G. had a outstanding warrant from Nassau County. As a matter of fact, it was a felony warrant for a violation of probation, and he was wanted by the Nassau County Sheriff's Office.
But he wasn't a stranger to law enforcement.
He had previously had arrests for drug offenses, for domestic.
Jason G. was in fact convicted of several drug offenses, but not that alleged domestic violence charge. That was dropped.
There was a report also with Jolene and Jason G. getting into an altercation, a domestic violence situation at their home a couple days prior to this.
Jason G. had come over to the house and had wanted to spend the night with Jolene. Jolene was concerned it would cause problems with her divorce. Jason G. got very angry to the point that he started destroying items in the house.
For investigators, Jolene's allegations explain all that physical damage they saw inside her home.
Next on their list, police are really eager to talk to Jason G., but he is nowhere to be found.
We had a difficult time. We looked, it took a little while to track Jason G. down. It appeared from, trying to check his cell phone that he was only turning it on occasionally when he needed to, and that he was turning it off so that he couldn't be tracked. I don't think he was staying in one location very long.
He didn't have a means of transportation, so we knew he was probably in the Hilliard area. However, his parents lived in Jacksonville on the north side.
With all that, we did get a warrant to try to locate him by pinging his phone. He was found hiding under a bunch of cardboard boxes in the bedroom. So it was very, very suspicious to us. He was a prime suspect when we did the interview.
Jason.
When the interrogation of Jason G. starts, it begins with the detective keeping his tone pretty calm, his demeanor pretty calm.
Can we go just kind of back to the beginning and tell me, how you guys got together, where you met?
Little over a year ago, we went to school together, didn't never know each other, but I went over to the party, and just got together and just clicked.
But now cops are ready to take off the kid gloves. The temperature inside of that interrogation room heats up.
You're hot now.
I just found out that I was being missing yesterday. I was hurt.
But it's time up for Jason G. Detectives see something that makes them wonder whether he had gone one step too far.
You got some scratches on your wrist and everything. To me, they looked a lot like fingernail scratches, which really, really concerned me.
This is your opportunity here to clear your name, and you're acting like a jackass.
So things aren't looking so good for Jason G. But then, a new piece of evidence emerges that just deepens this mystery.
We want to know, who is that figure that walks across in the darkness?
Mother of three, Jolene Cummings, has seemingly vanished from her North Florida town, setting off alarm bells within the small community.
The hairdresser community was really just completely in shock. Watching Jolene's disappearance play out on TV, it was stressful.
She never showed up to pick up her kids yesterday on Mother's Day.
Cummings was last seen leaving work at the Tangles Hair Salon on Saturday around 5 p.m.
Florida's Nassau County Sheriff's investigators are racing against the clock to figure out what happened to the hairdresser. Remember, they've got her ex-boyfriend Jason G. under arrest in an unrelated case, and he's being interrogated.
When we find Jason G. and he's brought in for the interview, we're really looking at him as, this is probably our suspect.
You always want to give someone the benefit of a doubt just because of their history, but with everything involved, it just seemed like a pretty good suspect to look at the time.
Do me a favor, let me, hold your hands up like this. He had marks on his hands and his arms. To me, they looked a lot like fingernail scratches, which really, really concerned me. You got some scratches on your wrist and everything. Tell me about those.
They are really looking closely to see, could this have been a struggle with a person?
I had one of those damn branches that my dad had like a week ago.
Detective Harrington asks about that alleged domestic violence incident and the disturbing scene at Jolene's home.
He stated that the last time he saw Jolene was when he was at the house and the altercation occurred.
And I went over there to see what was in the house. There was some cabinets broken, there was some holes and stuff. Did that happen that night?
I had some cabinets shut up.
And what about there's holes in the door?
She took the hammer, so we couldn't go. And that was 4 or 5 months ago.
During the interrogation, Jason G. tells the detectives that he lost his phone. Now that's a red flag for detectives. They're thinking, oh, come on, who doesn't have their phone with them all the time these days?
Well, it's time for you to come clean and tell us what you did.
I didn't know.
Then where's your phone?
It's at my cousin's and my dad's.
Which one is it?
Jason G has an answer for why he doesn't have his cell phone, because he's actually been trying to run from police and doesn't want them to ping his phone because of that outstanding parole violation warrant.
But I told you, the reason I was from I didn't want to go to jail. Ever since I've had this warrant, I've had my dad taking out my phone. I had nothing to do with this. I've been working on it with y'all. I told y'all can call my cousin and my dad, they will tell you where I've been at the past 3 days.
Jason G says that he has an alibi for where he was, and not just for the day that Jolene went missing, but the entire weekend.
He had stated he was having a barbecue down in North Jacksonville.
I went to sleep, I slept till about 10 or 11. We went back over there and we got the rest of the day. They stayed there till Sunday. I went home Sunday night.
Maybe Jason G. does come across as volatile, a little rough around the edges. But Detective Harrington notices that when G talks about Jolene, he's calmer. His voice softens.
I was home in this home. More attention, baby. Try to get over it. When I'm texting Sunday morning until I happy birthday.
I gotta tell you, I'm not buying what you're telling me.
I mean, let's tell me the truth. I have nothing to do with it. Listen, I love it. I miss you. I wouldn't do it.
He no way convinced me after the interview that he was innocent, but in the back of my mind, I did think he seemed like he really was concerned about Jolene's well-being and whereabouts.
Police take more pictures and then book G on the probation violation charge, but he's still only a suspect in Jolene's disappearance.
The Nassau County Sheriff's Office, they take the approach of getting the public involved. They start putting out the flyers with her picture on it.
Press release was stating that Jolene Cummings was missing. It also described her vehicle, a gold tan in color Ford Expedition with a tag number.
It was sent out to local news media. We just want to saturate the area.
Now at 11, a renewed push in the search for a missing local mother.
The Nassau County Sheriff's Department put out a Facebook post asking anyone with information about her whereabouts.
Investigators have put out a BOLO. Now that's cop speak for be on the lookout for. And guess what? One observant tipster calls in to say he thinks that he's seen an SUV just like Jolene's sitting in a local Home Depot parking lot.
The day after we put the BOLO out, I got a call from a citizen that thought he had seen it here in the parking lot. We responded here immediately and did determine by both tag and VIN that it was indeed Jolene's vehicle. One of the first things I noticed was that the driver's door was unlocked. All the other doors were locked. Just looking at it from the outside, I didn't notice anything obvious. I didn't notice any blood, any damage. Once we located the vehicle outside the Home Depot, I instructed several detectives to start canvassing the area to see if there was any video surveillance.
There is a ViStar credit union that I had worked off duty at. I knew that their cameras faced in that direction.
That credit union surveillance camera captures investigative gold and leads to the second big break in the case.
When we looked at the camera angles, we determined that shortly after 1 a.m. on Sunday morning, the vehicle comes up the approach road off of State Road 200 from the direction of the salon and is immediately pulled into the parking area. You cannot see who's driving it at that point in time. And then you can see a figure emerge and walk across the screen towards the right.
Everyone is hoping that it's Jolene getting out of that car. Then, a minute later, a figure is visible in the doorway of a nearby convenience store.
It was kind of like that hair on the back of my neck stand-up moment because I was like, this is who I'm looking for.
Hairdresser and mom Jolene Cummings has been missing for 3 days now, and Florida's Nassau County Sheriff's detectives are working several leads. One of them is Jolene's ex-boyfriend, Jason G., who tells police he's got an alibi. He says he was at a barbecue all weekend.
Jason told us where he had been and who he had been with, but his story checked out. He ultimately was cleared.
Now that Jolene's former boyfriend and her ex-husband are cleared, they're out of the picture, police are laser focused on that Home Depot parking lot footage. It's the shadowy image, a person emerging from the area near Jolene's SUV.
We want to know, who is that figure that walks across in the darkness?
Once Jolene's vehicle is discovered, police look through it to see if there are any clues as to her whereabouts.
Breaking developments in the case of a missing Nassau County mother last seen on Saturday when she left her job at a hair salon. Today, her vehicle found in the parking lot of a Home Depot.
Earlier that day, investigators visited Jolene's workplace, Tangle Salon, where one of her co-workers, they've been told, was the last person to see Jolene the night before Mother's Day.
You always want to know, in a missing persons case, the last person to see the victim. And that was an individual, a co-worker by the name of Jennifer Seibert.
Jennifer Seibert had been working at the Tangle's hair salon for a couple of months. Jennifer Seibert did come with this air of mystery.
And they didn't have a whole lot of background information on her other than what was on her application.
What did you know of her?
I didn't know anything of her. She was just a newcomer.
Now, the very moment that investigators arrive at the salon to ask questions, Jennifer Seibert pulls up into the parking lot for her shift. But then, she does something rather suspicious.
When Miss Seibert learned that there was a detective there at the business, she immediately leaves the parking lot and does not come back to go to work.
At that moment, we're thinking, why would she not want to tell us anything about her coworker?
Yeah.
Why would she
honestly,
leave?
at the time, I think it was more of a red flag to you than me. It was kind of a red flag, but she kind of was like, that's really, really strange.
Jennifer Seibert even tells her boss to not bother to keep her check there, that she should just mail it to a forwarding address.
Seibert also sends a text with an explanation for why she bolted. She claims she was fearful of an ex-partner. She even writes, "My ex is terrible. When it comes to him, I fear for my life."
Jennifer Seibert was not eager to speak to us and left a long, rambling telephone message telling us why she wanted to help, but she couldn't be a part of this investigation, basically because her life was in danger.
From the moment that police see the vehicle of Jolene Cummings parked in that parking lot, they are canvassing the area. They really want to know who got out of that car when it was parked.
Once we observed the surveillance video of the person exiting, we could tell which direction they walked in. The only place that would have probably been open at that time would have been this convenience store. The first camera that I picked the person up on would have been here. And you could see them walk around the building just as I did. Then they walk down and they actually stop here for a minute and address the clerk that's standing outside on a break. And then they go ahead and enter the building.
The video from inside the convenience store is a big break. Who is it that walks in?
When I saw that, it was kind of like that hair on the back of my neck stand-up moment, because I was like, this is who I'm looking for.
The person who walks through the front door is Jennifer Seibert.
And she's dressed in all black, she's got on combat boots, and she seems really chatty with the attendant while she's there.
I conducted an interview with a store employee who was working there as well. There was a female that came into the store the other night, right here.
Yes, she said something about how she was out with a couple of friends drinking. When I tried to go back inside to go back to working, she wanted me to stay around.
He said that she was acting as if she was nervous or scared about something. She asked him to call a taxi cab for her.
We were able to capture video so as it actually shows the taxi cab pull up. It pulls into a spot just over here in front of the store. You could see her enter the vehicle in the front passenger seat, and you could see the cab pull away.
we were able to not only determine who the cab driver was, but interview him. What do you recall about that person?
She was dressed in like a black workout outfit. She had black hair, had it up in a bun on her head. She didn't appear to have a purse or anything.
What stood out to me and the cab driver was that Jennifer Seibert had stated that she'd been out with friends and didn't have enough money for gas, but yet she had prepaid for the cab ride on a credit card.
I found that kind of odd because if a person's prepaying $20 on a credit card, they should be able to give somebody $5 worth of gas and get a ride.
The location that the cab driver was asked to take Jennifer Seibert was of interest to detectives because it wasn't exactly where she worked, the Tangle Salon, but it was in the same shopping center.
He dropped her off by a small black vehicle, which we knew that was what Jennifer Seibert owned and drove every day to work.
At that point in time, our number one priority is to find Jennifer Seibert, who is now purposely evading us.
But there's just one major problem. Police can't find Seibert. The address on her Tangle's job application isn't even real.
I went to that location, and what I discovered is that it is a non-existent address. It's a fake address. This is the fake address that Jennifer Seibert has given in her application for employment. Just nothing here. There's no residences, nothing. And it became apparent to me that this was something amiss.
Where is Jennifer Seibert? Investigators race to find her. Will they also find Jolene?
Cummings has not been seen since Mother's Day weekend, and investigative reporter Julia Janae joins us now with more. Julia?
Heather, that video that was released shows the missing SUV of Cummings being driven what appears to be Jennifer Seibert. So once they look at that video, who walks through the doors of Gate gas station but Jennifer Seibert? And she's dressed in all black.
But so far, police have had no luck tracking down the mysterious woman. Small hair salons are known to be warm, friendly places. But at Tangle's in northern Florida, the newest employee, Jennifer Seibert, didn't exactly fit in.
Everyone would talk with each other. It was just a very cozy, friendly environment to be in.
So all the hairdressers seemed to get along. And then all of a sudden, there was a new woman.
So I never really got to know her well. She was kind of standoffish.
Within a few weeks of Jennifer being there, they started to notice things that they thought were off about Jennifer. Just the way she acted. She could never really give an address of where she lived.
Jolene had a lot of concern about Jennifer Seibert's background. I did an interview with Ashley Nunley, who Jolene had styled her hair the day before she went missing.
She goes, because there's something just weird. Jolene says she started wearing wigs when she first started. Jolene says she was going to look up her name and figure out what the heck was going on with her.
Knowing Jolene, she's not going to leave something alone until she gets an answer that she can believe.
It turns out the questions about Jennifer Seibert's background, her behavior, also dogged her at a previous beauty salon where she worked in nearby Yulee.
She definitely had extremes in behavior. She would be so upbeat, or if she was mad, it was almost like seething mad. If she would get mad at a client, I would see her sit there and grip the back of the chair and like white knuckle it.
My stylists were complaining that they did not want to work with her. I did find a reason to fire her. She had all her stuff packed, leaving. So I followed her out the front door and asked her for the keys back. And she took them off her key ring and she threw them at me. That was 3 o'clock in the afternoon, 9 o'clock at night. She was still sitting in her car in the parking lot. That was a little bit creepy. And I actually did make sure that no one was following me home. She didn't follow me home.
The last known place that Jolene Cummings had been seen is Tangle's hair salon. We made a determination, we need to go back to the salon.
To the naked eye, there wasn't a whole lot out of place.
Traditionally, Jolene Cummings sat in the break room at the very back by the bathroom. I was looking with my flashlight at the edge of the sink, which was perfectly clean, and as I looked down, I saw what looked to me to be a dilute blood ring.
So we had our crime scene unit go back and do a forensic examination of the entire salon with what's called either blue star or luminol, which creates a chemical reaction with blood, and it will fluoresce or glow. Basically, the whole salon lit up. There was blood everywhere that was obviously had been cleaned up. You could see mop marks on the floor and blood.
Now the police have this disturbing discovery of the blood spatter inside of the salon. The search for Jennifer Seibert, it becomes much more urgent. She basically went to number one on the radar that we got to find out where she is. We did have a phone number for her that was provided on her application, so we started pinging that phone. Started looking at like beach areas where they had the showers, rest stops, different places where somebody who might not have a permanent place to live might be.
On Wednesday, we got an updated ping that said that she was in a rest area in St. Johns County, roughly 35 miles south, closer to St. Augustine.
6 detectives and myself and the 2 FBI agents went to the northbound rest stop in St. Johns County.
The rest area was under construction, and it was just confusion. Dark, semis roaring around.
And when I came to the rest area on the northbound side, I saw a black Kia Soul sitting between 2 semi-trucks. I called another detective and told him, hey, I believe this is Jennifer Seibert's car.
There was exhaust vapor coming out of the tailpipe of the vehicle, so I knew it was running.
I was a little worried about approaching the vehicle because I didn't know who was in the vehicle, if they had a weapon.
I had my flashlight. I then observed an individual who was laying down in the back of the vehicle get up and slither through the 2 front seats and drop into the driver's seat. I remember repeatedly stating, do not put the vehicle in drive. She had her driver's license ready. It was Jennifer Seibert.
Once Jennifer got out of the vehicle, I identified myself to her and told her that I was investigating Jolene's disappearance. She reiterated to me that she had no idea where Jolene was at. At that point in time, I asked her, I said, you've never been in her vehicle, you have no reason to drive her vehicle? And she answered no. I knew that she was lying to me because I had her on surveillance video parking Jolene's vehicle near the Home Depot in Yulee.
Detective Harrington is heading out to a local judge's home. He's got to get an arrest warrant for grand theft auto for Jolene's SUV. But somebody has to keep an eye on Jennifer Seibert to make sure she does not bolt.
My captain informed me, he says, I want you to keep her occupied. You are not to interrogate her, just talk to her. Where did you shower?
At the gym. I'm going to take a break from body comp and just stick with the cycle classes for a while.
And the curious thing to me was she never once asked, what is this about? She never once asked, am I free to leave? Any mosquitoes prominent rest area?
Oh my goodness. When a mosquito bites me, it just takes probably almost an entire month for not one mosquito bite to heal.
But it's not mosquito bites on Seibert's face that are getting the attention of detectives.
She had claw marks on her face. She had Band-Aids on her face. It looked like to me that she had been in one hell of a fight.
Back at the station, she appears oddly relaxed and in a good mood when she's talking to officers, not the suspect of this intense missing person search.
She was very open, communicative, actually laughing, joking.
Those hurting you?
No, they feel great. You can put them on tighter if you want. Whatever you want to do.
But nobody could have guessed what would turn up in Seibert's background and just how entangled her past was.
It was bigger than I imagined.
It was like flipping a switch.
This is a woman who was reported missing by her own mother decades before this happened in 2004.
I had 2 IDs at the time. I had myself and then my other ID.
And once detectives start digging into the background of this woman, they discover she's not at all who she claims to be on a number of levels. In fact, she had been using up to 18 different aliases and had lived in over 30 cities.
No one had any idea how truly just unhinged that she was.
And there's more surveillance video of Jennifer Seibert. But will it reveal the fate of missing hairstylist Jolene Cummings?
Do you think it was a conspiracy or a lone gunman?
To me, it's a much bigger story than the Kennedy murder.
Is this mystery ever going to get solved?
Who Killed JFK, Monday night on ABC.
This was the most bizarre.
Very diabolic. Truly unhinged.
Watching Jolene's disappearance play out on TV was stressful.
Missing mother in Nassau County.
Jolene Cummings was dangerously close to discovering that Jennifer Seibert was not Jennifer Seibert.
Jolie, there's something going on with her. I'm gonna find out.
She had stolen the dead child's information and created a false identity.
She took that name out of the cemetery.
She had 17 different names. She lived in 14 states.
How do you even wrap your mind around that?
She was an angel one second and then getting in a fight with somebody the next.
It's definitely not a normal thing for a person to go and buy a carving knife in the evening of a random Friday night.
My God, what is she up to?
You'd think she's done this before.
There is no doubt in my mind.
She's saying that she's Kimberly Kessler, but how do we know what the truth is?
Well, it was her birthday and it was Mother's Day. And I wanted her to be reminded that she was my special blessing on a Mother's Day, a gift that no other could compete. And then text her that Saturday and, hey, did you get the angel?
And that was the last text. Ann Johnson's daughter, 34-year-old Jolene Cummings, has been missing for 4 days now, and police have found no sign of the hairstylist. They've questioned and cleared both her ex-husband and former boyfriend in her disappearance.
Crime scene detectives went to Tango Salon to look a little closer.
You could see that there had been a struggle and smears of blood all over the salon.
Now we know there must have been a big fight in that salon.
You always want to know in a missing persons case the last person to see the victim, and that was a co-worker by the name of Jennifer Seibert.
Jennifer Seibert became the focus of the investigation after she was spotted on surveillance footage, abandoning Jolene's vehicle in a parking lot and then walking into a convenience store to call for a taxi. Detectives managed to track her down and arrest her.
The charge you were arrested on is a grand theft auto charge. You knew that, correct?
Yes.
You're not charged with anything else, okay? But something happened to Jolene.
Right out of the gate, Jennifer Seibert sits down in this interrogation room and she drops this mind twister on detectives. She tells them that her name isn't actually Jennifer Seibert.
My fingerprints, they come up as Kimberly Lee Kessler, so I would prefer to be called Kim. The last time I got picked up was back in 1999 and I bonded out.
So you've actually kind of got you've got a history under that name?
I'm ready to go back to being myself. Kimberly Lee Kessler. Kind of a silly middle name, isn't it? It's like my mom stuttered.
So right now we were taking in who is Kimberly Kessler at this point.
I'm 50 years old. I look so deceiving. I do. I have a son. That's what got me running in 1999. Child Protective Services snatched him while I was at work from the babysitter, and that really sent me over the edge.
Then there's this next shocking moment where she tells detectives that she dated someone who was wanted by the FBI.
He robbed banks. I was working as a topless dancer, and He was with me whenever he called somebody and they said, the FBI is looking for you. And he's like, oh my God. And then he tells me everything. Oh, I robbed these banks. So I'm like, what? And I hid him in my apartment. And that was like kind of almost the beginning.
She loved to brag about her past, and she was very proud of that.
She had been running for the past 20, 25 years and didn't want to be found.
It's a bombshell, but is it true? Are you okay if I ask my crime analyst to run the name?
Do it, please. You'll see my mug. I'll look a lot younger then. And thinner, too. I won't be 200 pounds.
Well, it's unusual when someone that is a person of interest is just joking around, acting like nothing's wrong, nothing's going on.
And during the interview, I kind of wanted to let her talk as much as she wanted to, but at some point in time, I knew I had to ask her about Jolene. Did you guys ever hang out after work? Did you ever go anywhere together? She ever allowed you to use your car?
No.
Her demeanor changed. She became evasive.
You accused me the other night of, you're like, where's Jolene at? So, and I do not know where she is.
I think you know where Jolene is. We're going to find out what happened. You can help me do that.
No, I cannot. Whatever fury may come. So let me reply this way, and you may not like the answer. I would like legal counsel.
With Jennifer Seibert now refusing to talk, it's up to investigators to determine fact from fiction.
Who is she really? I mean, she's saying that she's Kimberly Kessler, but how do we know what the truth is? I mean, she's obviously very complex.
When they researched her background, they found out she was actually someone who had been reported as a missing person decades before, in 2004, by her own mother in Butler, Pennsylvania.
So detectives called Connie Kessler, who they believe to be Kimberly's mother, hoping to learn more.
We do have someone that is claiming to be Kimberly Kessler, and that is your daughter, is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
The last time I heard from her was in 2004, and it was on an answering machine. She'd been having trouble with her boss, and then there was no way to get back in touch with her, so all I could do is wait.
Detectives are quickly discovering that the woman they have in custody, claiming to be Kimberly Kessler, has used a host of different aliases over the years, seemingly random names. But Connie Kessler adds yet another twist to this increasingly strange story, explaining how her daughter had allegedly picked one of those names.
She went to visit her dad at a cemetery. She picked a name off a little girl that died near her father.
Do you know the name she picked?
Yeah, it was Pamela Jean Cleaver.
She could be anybody. So we conducted a DNA test.
The FBI actually took a DNA out of Kimberly Kessler's mother's home, and it came back that it was a match, that she was Kimberly Kessler.
Well, if that's the case, then who exactly is Jennifer Seibert? And once again, Detective Rose discovers there was an absolutely chilling answer to that question.
Found a little girl named Jennifer Seibert who was 13 years old, who had been killed in a car accident in Germany. However, she was buried in Butler, Pennsylvania. And then NCIS confirmed the social security number of Jennifer Seibert. And that's when we realized
she had stolen the dead child's information and created a false identity.
The night when I told her you're under arrest for grand theft auto, she almost smiled as if to say, is that all?
Police are just scratching the surface in their search for a missing mom. And now they're about to dig up a tangled tale of chaos beyond what they could have ever imagined.
I saw something about stabbing you in the leg. Can you tell me about that?
In hindsight, I should have ran.
With Jolene Cummings still missing, police are learning more about the woman they've got in custody. Turns out her name isn't Jennifer Seibert, it's actually Kimberly Kessler. And the more they unravel, the more complicated her past becomes.
Come to find out she had 17 different names. She lived in 14 states. Very unusual for someone to have that track record and is not running from something.
During the next couple weeks, I conducted several audio interviews.
And we had to try to figure out who we actually had in our jail. So we're just trying to get whatever information we can.
We discovered a husband. She had been married. When I spoke to him, he said, I met her in Arizona. She was stripping during that time.
Well, I can tell you she's a master of disguises. She wears a lot of wigs and changes her look a lot.
You know, she did wear a lot of wigs.
Is she?
She's very exotic.
He knew her as Melissa McKernan.
So I have Melissa tattooed across my chest.
So he was kind of shocked whenever we told him, hey, this is not Melissa McKernan. Her true name is Kimberly Kessler.
Oh, no. I was like, he don't even have a real name on his chest.
But going back to the 1980s, Kimberly Kessler was just this small town girl living in Butler County, Pennsylvania.
Kimmy, that's what they called her. Short-haired, tomboy, cute little young lady.
So you did know her?
I guess she knew me. She was good friends with a cousin of mine. The girls would all ride horses and that together. Yeah, I met her a few times too, girls. I guess she had like a little schoolgirl crush on me or something.
She has a past with other people from high school.
Kim was a year behind me in high school. I was class of 85, she was class of 86. She was a cheerleader,
Tom Sims hadn't seen her for years while he'd been in the Army. And then one day, their paths crossed again.
I stopped in the bar to have a beer and she was working. She was blonde and fit and beautiful. And we went out for drinks and yeah.
They eventually end up dating and living together.
Can you tell me some more about her?
She's got a handful.
She wasn't a friendly person, always scheming. She was an angel one second and then getting in a fight with somebody the next.
Was that a normal thing for her, like acting out and being violent?
Yeah.
One of her moods got me with a steak knife.
I saw something about stabbing you in the leg.
No, she stabbed me in the chest. She bit my dad in the leg.
She bit your dad in the leg?
Yes.
She attacked him, bit him on the leg. Oh, you should have seen it. It was a huge bite mark.
It was the day after she hit me with the iron piece off the gas stove.
She grabbed off, the burner and hit me upside the head with it. I think she already had her escape planned because she was gone after that. Gone.
Tom Sims says police came to the house for each violent incident. When Kessler stabbed him, when she bit his father, when she struck him with that iron grill. But he never pressed charges against her.
I probably should have. Young and naive.
But about a year later in 1990, Kessler was back, and she wants to catch up. Sims would later tell police about a troubling conversation that he says he had with her.
We had a cat.
Mm-hmm.
His name was Malcolm. That cat and I were very attached. She's the greatest cat in the world. I asked her, where's my cat? And she's like, well, I couldn't take him with me, so I had to kill him.
Did she say how she did that?
She shot him with a shotgun.
I saw no empathy. I was absolutely sick to my stomach. And then she disappeared again.
Kessler has never responded to those allegations. But while Sims only knew her as Kimberly Kessler, there are plenty of others who knew her by entirely different names, including Sergeant Jim Walters back in Virginia Beach in 1999.
I knew it wasn't Christina Brooks that I was talking to, but that was the name she gave me.
It was a very, very bizarre situation in Virginia Beach. She lived with the father of her child, and a neighbor saw her digging in the yard with the kid in the hole, and she said it was a grave that she was digging, and she was acting very bizarrely. So the neighbor called the Child Welfare Services, and they came and took the child.
On August the 3rd, 1999, I received a call that there was a disorderly, suspicious person at social services, and we spoke real quickly, and I asked her to leave.
That's when we followed Christina Brooks out and stopped her on the other side of the bus stop.
Sergeant Walter says he's never forgotten what he says he discovered in her purse.
A Smith & Wesson .357 Magnum, a taser, and a roll of duct tape. We call it a kidnap kit.
Sergeant Walters arrests Christina Brooke for carrying a concealed weapon without a permit.
Found out later that she was released on her recognizance, and of course, gone. It gave me chills. My God, what is she up to?
Turns out she was up to a lot. Remember that childhood friend David Trempis? By 2018, he was living in San Antonio when he says he got a message on Facebook from a woman in Florida.
I got a friend request from Mia Stone, and I accepted it.
She told David Trempis that she wanted to help him out. He was kind of going through a custody battle with his child.
She's real persistent. I told her, well, if I ever come down to Florida, I'd meet you. And the very next day, bam, she was here. She just got there overnight. That was kind of freaky in itself. I said, I'll meet you at the Whataburger in town. She come walking up, and she had that big black curly wig on, and it was, down over her eyes, and, it was just out of place. And she had a scar on her face.
David Trempis told police that Mia Stone claims she got the scar when her ex-husband tried to run her over. And now she wanted to move to Texas and marry Trempis.
But she wanted to move in with me. That's why she was up here. And I just kind of played it cool and said, it was great to meet you. And then, I got the hell out of there. Time to go.
About a week later, Jolene Cummings goes missing. Not long after, Trempis says he got a call from the sheriff's office in Florida asking if he knew a woman named Mia Stone.
She also goes by the name, there's like 18 names, Mia Stone, Jennifer Seibert. Her true name is Kimberly Kessler.
That girl's name is really Kim Kessler?
Yes, sir.
She never let on to that. Her real name was Kim Kessler.
So investigators are left to wonder, had Jolene figured out Kessler's grand deception?
No one had any idea how truly evil she was.
And had Kessler retaliated by doing the unthinkable? When Jennifer Seibert first arrived in Fernandina Beach in 2018, no one had a clue about her trail of chaos and red flags over the years.
Let me tell you what, Jolene was very inquisitive, very intuitive, and when she said someone's fake, it's like, you're putting on an act, or you're not who you say you are.
So was Jolene on the verge of discovering the real story about the woman now known as Kimberly Kessler?
I believe 100% that Jolene was going to check to see who she was.
Investigators uncovered text messages Jolene had sent about the new employee, suggesting there was something off about her that she couldn't quite put her finger on. Did you get a vibe between the two of them when she was in the salon?
Yeah, Kimberly was kind of standoffish, and there was definitely some tension between them.
Well, the theory is that Jolene Cummings was dangerously close to discovering, number one, that Jennifer Seibert was not Jennifer Seibert, and number two, who she might really be.
Towards the end, it had gotten contentious to the point that they would yell at one another in front of clients. And there had been a fight in particular where the argument ended and Jolene looked at her client and said, there's something going on with her. I'm gonna find out.
I think that pushed Kim Kessler and Jennifer Seibert over the edge.
Just stand up and bend over a little bit for me.
With Kessler in custody, detectives begin searching her phone.
Her phone was definitely an insight into where her mind was, leading up to the moment that Jolene went missing. Jolene goes missing on May 12th. we see Kimberly Kessler's search history starts to shift from recipes and stores and the normal things to how long does it take for a body to decay? How to hide the evidence of a crime.
It was very weird what she was searching. You know, no body, no crime. How to dismember a body.
No one had any idea how truly evil she was, how truly unhinged that she was.
We're here in the alley behind Tangle's Hair Salon, or what used to be Tangle's Hair Salon. This was the back door to the salon.
And it's in that alley where detectives find another huge clue.
We have video surveillance from 2 different sources, and the dumpster behind us is visible in several of those videos.
The surveillance video shows Kimberly Kessler taking numerous large trash bags that are pretty full and pretty heavy based on the way that she's got to swing them into the dumpster behind the salon.
Her duties were not to carry out the trash, which was picked up Monday mornings. So it was unusual that after hours she would still be here.
Once detectives start piecing things together from inside of the Tangle salon and looking at the alley outside, they start to develop a theory that Jolene Cummings may have been dismembered and discarded in that very dumpster.
They processed the whole place, and there was so much blood there that nobody was going to survive that.
Investigators scan that surveillance tape, hoping for more clues, and boy, did they get one. They see Kessler driving by Tangle as though she's checking to see if the dumpsters had been emptied.
We discovered that the local waste company had actually picked up the dumpster for disposal. And at this point, she no longer drove by.
Police learned that the contents were taken to a landfill in Georgia, about 25 miles away from Nassau County.
The FBI took the lead on actually searching the landfill.
The FBI Jacksonville team's been working around the clock in support.
This landfill is absolutely enormous. We knew it was going to be a needle in a haystack, but we knew we had to try to search and see what evidence, or if Jolene herself was in that dump. It was 117 degrees, so it was miserable, but had to be done.
It was gut-wrenching. I mean, I was in tears to know that you could be thrown away like trash when you were an amazing person.
But after nearly a week of combing through the landfill in scorching temperatures every day with no positive results, law enforcement called off the search.
Sheriff Lieber, he didn't have to say anything. His face said it all. It was a face of disappointment, of grief that we didn't find her.
Inside, this had to just be your worst nightmare.
It's a nightmare that no parent, no one that has a loved one should ever have to endure. The not knowing was the worst.
Despite not having a body or finding the remains of Jolene Cummings, the state attorney's office decides they are going forward with charges of murder against Kimberly Kessler, along with grand theft auto.
At the point that I'm coming into the case, I am focused on justice for Jolene.
With prosecutors now preparing to try Kimberly Kessler for first-degree murder, she's going to undergo yet another transformation.
Jordan Beard is Jolene Cummings' cousin.
And with behavior like that, is she actually fit to stand trial for Jolene's murder?
Kimberly Kessler has been charged with the murder of Jolene Cummings. And while she's being held, let's just say she isn't exactly a model inmate.
So Jennifer Seibert was brought here, and she's booked and held in this area. What was she like as an inmate?
She was hateful, mean. She did not like us. She would do the craziest things. She actually ripped her smock off and completely got naked, started smearing feces all over herself, and it just went from there. She then decided it was a great idea to throw it at us. So we were in there dunking, diving, trying to get away from it.
At a point in time during her incarceration, she began a hunger strike, went from 170 pounds to down around 80 pounds.
But her bizarre behavior didn't stop there.
Jordan Beard is Jolene Cummings' cousin.
At pretrial hearings, Kessler would disrupt the proceedings, yelling about her representation, yelling about her treatment in jail.
Jordan Beard is Jolene Cummings' cousin.
Her contention was that one of her defense attorneys was cousins with Jolene Cummings.
Jordan Beard is Jolene's cousin.
But Judge James H. Daniel rules that this is false.
There was no relationship between Jordan Beard and Jolene Cummings or anyone in Jolene Cummings' family.
Kimberly Kessler now has to watch the proceedings on a video feed from jail. And because of all that seemingly unhinged behavior, she's declared mentally incompetent to stand trial.
We had a hearing to determine whether she was mentally competent to proceed to a trial. And we presented evidence to show that she was delusional, she was mentally ill.
Kimberly Kessler had a lot of strange tendencies, and prosecutors did not believe it. They felt that she was putting on an act in order to avoid having to face the charges against her.
But I actually went over there one day while she's not eating, and I wanted to talk to her, and I determined right then that she was putting on an act, trying to let everybody think she's crazy.
As time goes by, more hearings are held to make a determination as to whether Kimberly Kessler is competent to stand trial.
A judge is now weighing whether murder suspect Kimberly Kessler is mentally competent and whether she'll need to be force-fed.
At these hearings for competency, there was a psychiatrist who testified as to whether or not Kimberly Kessler could be a part of her defense and ultimately be competent to stand trial.
And you have found Ms. Kessler intelligent and strategic. Some of the things that she does are very intentional. What I mean is that her behavior is something that is thought out and organized.
Even Kessler's jailers were brought to the stand to say that they believed she was completely rational.
Was Ms. Kessler capable of communicating her thoughts and her needs to you?
Yes, ma'am.
A high-profile murder suspect is competent to stand trial. That's according to doctors at a Florida hospital.
I felt like she was choosing to do this for whatever reason, and it was not the product of some mental health disorder.
Finally, after 3 long years, Jolene Cummings' family is in the courtroom, about to get their chance at justice.
Kimberly Kessler, a former co-worker of missing Nassau County mother Jolene Cummings, is charged with first-degree premeditated murder.
The trial was very much anticipated. Jolene's mother was very popular. She knew a lot of people, and a lot of people supported her. And it was a very tragic and traumatic situation for her. And the news covered it pretty relentlessly.
Just as this trial begins, it's almost immediate that Kimberly Kessler starts having her typical outbursts in the courtroom.
I refuse the public defender's office. They appointed Jordan Beard, Jolene Cummings' cousin, as my public defender. They appointed Jolene Cummings' cousin as my public defender. What, you don't want the public to know that?
She'll be downstairs as she's been through the proceedings thus far.
There are critical stages in a proceeding where the defendant has to be present. Trial would be certainly one of them. However, it's also my job to make sure that the state has the ability to prosecute a case.
The judge decides to excuse Kimberly Kessler from the proceedings, and now there's the opportunity for the state to actually get started with their opening statement.
The following evidence will establish premeditation beyond a reasonable doubt. Premeditation that the defendant planned Jolene Cummings' death. But as Jolene Cummings made plans for the next day of her life, the defendant had planned Jolene's death.
Prosecutors are about to present the heart of what they insist is a pre-planned murder case. Video of a shopping trip And what Kessler is buying will chill you to the bone.
Live at the Nassau County Courthouse. Janice, Cummings' body was never found, but the state still plans to try and prove that case.
The prosecution begins laying out their case, and it relies heavily on circumstantial evidence and surveillance video.
CSU used luminol to find evidence of the defendant's cleanup of Jolene Cummings' blood. The luminol will flow through to indicate the presence of blood. You will see the evidence of blood from the stylist chair mat nearest the reception desk through the salon to the restroom near the back door.
Prosecutors argue that after spending hours cleaning the bloody crime scene, Kimberly Kessler, known at the time as Jennifer Seibert, went to Walmart to buy a set of items that paint a truly macabre picture.
The Walmart video and receipt, which are evidence that at 8:57 p.m., the defendant used her credit card.
There is an overhead shot of Jennifer Seibert in this dark shirt, her hair pulled up into this bun. And what's most interesting is that you can see specifically what Jennifer Seibert is scanning. She's scanning a large bottle of ammonia. She's scanning rubber gloves. She's scanning a large box of outdoor style trash bags. And she's scanning an electric carving knife.
This is not Thanksgiving. What is she buying this knife for? And I'm like, oh my God, she dismembered her.
Prosecutors say that this evidence ties into what they found behind the Tangles salon.
What are we looking at?
Out. Ultimately, that tub was found by detectives, and inside of that was Jolene's blood as well as a fingernail.
Why would Kessler kill Jolene? Well, prosecutors believe it was because Jolene was on to Kessler's games. In fact, a Tangles employee took the stand with some telling testimony, what she heard on the day of the murder.
Do you remember Jolene Cummings telling the defendant your face?
Jennifer Seibert didn't want to be found out as Kimberly Kessler. That's what it appeared based on the timing of the comment that Jolene made and when this murder happens.
But the defense insists there is no evidence of premeditation in this case, and that's what's required for a first-degree murder conviction.
I certainly submit to you that that is evidence of conduct, of violent conduct. But what the state cannot offer you, what they have absolutely no proof of, are the questions that you need to decide this case. Who started?
There's nothing to counter the theory that this had been a mutual combat, a fight. I mean, a physical fight between two women that ended up in one of the women dying. And that's just not first-degree murder.
The prosecution believed that they had, beyond a reasonable doubt, enough evidence to prove that this was first-degree murder.
We can see from her words, her internet searches, she spent at least a couple weeks in books. Premeditated the death of Jolene Cummings. From her internet searches, it's obvious that she intended to kill her. That's all the evidence you need to find the defendant premeditation beyond a reasonable doubt.
With closing arguments done, Kimberly Kessler's fate rests in the hands of the jury.
Breaking at noon, the jury has been dismissed to begin deliberations in the murder trial of Kimberly Kessler.
It had been about 2 hours, maybe 2.5 hours, and we got a call that said the jury's back with a verdict.
All right, everybody please have a seat. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Madam Clerk, to please publish the verdicts.
Therefore, Kimberly Kessler, a.k.a. Jennifer Marie Seibert, verdict count 1, first-degree murder. We, the jury, found the defendant guilty of first-degree murder as charged in the indictment.
I
think Anne was relieved. It brought her some closure. It was an emotional moment.
It's been a long 3 years. We miss Jolene every second of the day.
Jolene's family feels they finally found justice. But with Kimberly Kessler's trail of deception and mayhem, police have a lingering question. Could there be more victims out there?
I believe she's running from something.
It's a tale of two women, Jolene Cummings, hairdresser and mom, who disappeared on Mother's Day, never to be found. And Kimberly Kessler, also a mom, who spent years crafting multiple identities and was convicted of murdering Jolene. Now, Kessler is about to be sentenced.
Jordan Beard is Jolene Cummings' cousin.
And like so many times at trial, Kimberly Kessler disrupts the proceedings and is taken out of the courtroom. Before handing down his sentence, the judge hears a victim impact statement from Jolene's mom, Ann Johnson.
When my precious daughter was murdered, others died. Our family discovered she made some sort of settlement right for sins.
This court will adjudicate Kimberly Kessler, also known as Jennifer guilty, sentence her to life in prison.
She's also sentenced to 5 years for grand theft auto of Jolene's vehicle, which she'll serve concurrently.
Kimberly Kessler leaving the Nassau County Jail in this white van. A deputy was seen doing a rock-on hand gesture before her departure Friday morning.
We're going to celebrate. We're going to celebrate her homegoing. It's her new home for the rest of her life until she takes her last breath. It's going to be Florida State Prison.
What was it like for all of you when she finally was transferred after her guilty verdict?
Oh my goodness. We were so happy that she was gone. She ended up getting shipped out to prison quite quickly afterwards. We did celebrate. We had a cake. There's a picture of us.
Are you relieved that this chapter's over?
Absolutely. I'd never want to have to deal with that woman again.
With all of the strange happenings that seem to surround Kimberly Kessler, there's this notion among some that is there some other unsolved case out there?
With the information that we obtained, the number of aliases, the number of cities, the number of states, I believe she's running from something.
That's going to be law enforcement's job, to follow up and to see if there were other people that could have been victimized by Kimberly Kessler. There could always be a new connection to something that wasn't seen before.
Remember Sergeant Jim Walters, who knew Kessler as Christina Brooke back in Virginia Beach? He recently handed over information about her to cold case investigators there.
I told the deputy chief the information that I had on Kimberly Kessler, and he said, I've got 4 or 5 unsolved homicides